Hi guys, tonight we drift quietly into the deep winter of the past. The sun is sinking, the air is turning cold. It feels like ice against your cheeks. The wind is coming off the fields like a cold river, finding every gap in your clothes. You can hear the dry grass snapping under your boots. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you want to let me know where you are listening from and what time it is where you are. I always love seeing those little snapshots of the world. Now dim the lights and let the story begin. You are standing at the edge of a great, open field. The day is ending. The light is fading fast, turning from a pale yellow to a soft, bruised purple. It is that special time of year when the world changes. Just yesterday, the ground was soft and wet. Your boots would sink into the brown mud with a squelching sound. But tonight, everything is different. The air has changed. It is sharp and clear. It smells clean, like dry leaves and old stones. The first hard frost has arrived. You take a slow breath in. The air is so cold that it surprises your lungs. It feels crisp and thin. When you breathe out, a cloud of white steam floats up in front of your face. It hangs there for a moment, a little ghost in the twilight, before the wind takes it away. You watch it disappear. You pull your cloak tighter around your shoulders. It is made of thick, rough wool. It is scratchy against your neck, but right now, you do not mind the scratchiness. You only care about the warmth. The wool is heavy, smelling faintly of sheep and rain. It is your only shield against the weather. You look down at your feet. You are wearing heavy leather boots. They are simple things, shaped to your feet by years of walking. Inside, you have stuffed them with dried moss and soft hay. This keeps your toes warm. It creates a cushion of air between your skin and the cold leather. It is a clever trick, one that everyone in the village knows. Without the moss, the frost would bite through the leather in minutes. You take a step forward. The ground is hard now. The mud has turned into stone. The ridges in the field, where the plough cut through the earth weeks ago, are frozen solid. Your boots make a hollow, clopping sound as you walk. It is a lonely sound. Clop, clop, clop. It echoes slightly in the empty air. The fields are empty. The harvest was finished months ago. The wheat and the barley are gone, stored away in barns and baskets. All that is left out here, the stubble. Short, yellow stalks of straw poke up from the frozen earth. They are brittle now. If you stepped on them, they would snap like tiny bones. A layer of white frost is starting to form on the tips of the grass. It looks like a dusting of fine sugar or salt. It glitters just a little in the last grey light of the day. You look towards the horizon. The trees at the edge of the wood are bare. They look like black skeletons against the darkening sky. Their branches are still. There are no leaves to catch the wind, so they do not rustle. They just stand there, waiting for the night. It is very quiet. The birds have already gone to sleep. There is no buzzing of insects. The summer noises are long gone. The winter silence is heavy and deep. It feels like the whole world is holding its breath. You begin to walk towards the village. It is not far. You can see the shapes of the houses up ahead. They are low and dark, huddled together like sleeping animals. There are no streetlights here. There are no lanterns burning on posts. The only light comes from the sky, and that is fading with every minute that passes. You have to watch your step. The path is uneven. Even though you know this path well, the shadows play tricks on your eyes. As you get closer, you can smell the village before you can see it clearly. It is the smell of wood smoke. It is a comforting scent. It means there are fires burning. It means there is heat. In every house, a fire is alive in the center of the room. The smoke drifts up through the thatched roofs and hangs low over the damp ground. It mixes with the smell of the frozen earth and the livestock. It is the smell of survival. In these times, The cold is not just uncomfortable, it is an enemy. It waits outside the door. It waits for the fire to go out. It waits for a hole in your coat. Surviving the winter is the most important job you have. There is no shop to buy a heater. There is no switch to turn on the warm air. There is only the wood you have gathered and the walls you have built. You reach the edge of the settlement. The houses are not arranged in straight lines. They sit where the ground is best, scattered around a central green space. You walk past a small garden. The vegetables are gone, pulled up before the frost could kill them. The soil is bare and lumpy. A wooden fence surrounds the garden. It is made of woven sticks, twisted together like a basket. This is called wattle. It is strong and flexible, but tonight the frost has coated the sticks in white. They look fragile, like spun glass. You stop for a moment outside your own home. It is a simple building. It is not tall. The roof comes down low, almost reaching the ground on the sides. It looks like a mushroom growing out of the earth. The walls are thick and brown. They are made of mud, straw, and animal hair mixed together. It doesn't look fancy, but it is solid. The mud has baked hard in the sun of the past summer. Now, it is like a shell. You put your hand out and touch the wall. It feels rough and cold, like sandpaper, but you know that inside, that same wall is warm. It holds the heat of the fire and keeps the wind away. The wind picks up again. It rushes past your ears with a low whistle. It stings the tip of your nose. Your fingers are starting to feel stiff inside your gloves. You rub your hands together, listening to the dry sound of the wool rubbing against itself. The cold is trying to get in. It is pressing against your clothes, looking for a way to touch your skin. It is time to go inside. But you pause for just one more second. You look up at the sky. The purple has turned to a deep, dark blue. The first star has appeared. It is a tiny, bright pinprick of white light. It looks very far away and very cold. Below it, the moon is rising. It is a sliver of silver, sharp and bright. The light from the moon catches the frost on the thatch of your roof. The dried reeds shine softly. Everything is still. There is a profound sense of peace in the cold. The work of the day is done. The fields are sleeping. The animals are quiet. There is nothing left to do but to be warm. The night belongs to the house now. The night belongs to the fire. You can hear a sound from inside the hut. It is a muffled, low sound. Someone is moving a heavy pot. A piece of wood cracks in the fire with a sharp pop. It is a welcoming sound. It tells you that life is waiting on the other side of the wall. You step up to the door. It is made of heavy wooden planks, dark with age. There is no shiny metal handle. There is just a leather strap and a wooden latch. You reach out with your cold hand and take hold of the strap. The leather is stiff with the frost. You pull it. The latch lifts with a clunk. The door creaks as you push it open. It is a heavy sound, the sound of wood rubbing against wood. As the gap opens, a wave of air hits you. But this air is not cold. It is warm. It is thick and smells of smoke and straw. It washes over your face like a warm towel. You step over the threshold, leaving the biting wind behind you. You push the door closed against the night. The heavy wood thuds into place. The latch falls. The wind is cut off instantly. The whistling stops. The silence of the fields is replaced by the soft crackle of the hearth. You are inside. The frost is outside. You are safe. You stand there for a moment, blinking. Your eyes are trying to get used to the change. Outside, the world was blue and grey and vast. Inside, everything is orange and brown and small. The light is dim. It comes from the fire in the center of the room, casting long, dancing shadows that stretch up towards the roof. The air is hazy. It is filled with the soft, golden dust of dry straw and the grey swirl of wood smoke. You take a deep breath. The air tastes completely different here. Outside, it was thin and sharp. Here, It is heavy. It tastes of earth. It tastes of the ground itself. And there is a good reason for that. You are standing inside a house made of the earth. You take off your heavy woolen gloves. You tuck them into your belt. You walk slowly towards the nearest wall. You want to feel the thing that is protecting you. You place your bare palm against the surface of the wall. It does not feel like the stone walls of a castle. Stone is cold. Stone steals the heat from your hand. If you leaned against a stone wall in the winter, you would shiver, but this wall is different. It feels dry and textured. It feels almost warm to the touch. It holds the heat of the room, absorbing the warmth of the fire and keeping it close to you. This is not just a pile of dirt. It is a clever mix of things, a recipe that your people have used for hundreds of years. It is called daub. You lean in closer to look at the surface. In the flickering orange light, you can see the texture. It is bumpy and uneven. It looks like a rough plaster. If you look very closely, you can see tiny pieces of yellow straw mixed into the dried brown mud. You might even see a single long hair from a cow or a horse, caught in the surface like a fossil. In the summer, months ago, this wall was wet mud. The whole family helped to make it. You can almost remember the feeling of that day. You went down to the river bank, where the clay is thick and sticky. You dug it up with wooden spades. You mixed the heavy clay with water and earth. Then, you added the secret ingredients that make it strong. You threw in armfuls of straw to hold it together, like invisible strings inside the mud. You added animal hair for strength, and you added manure from the cows. It sounds strange to build a house with manure, but once it is dried in the sun, it does not smell bad. It becomes hard and tough. It turns into a material that is better than brick. It stops the wind completely. You press your thumb against a small bump in the wall. It is hard as rock. Underneath this layer of dried mud, there is a skeleton made of wood. It is hidden deep inside the wall. It is woven from flexible sticks, usually from a hazel tree. These sticks are twisted in and out, over and under, like a basket. This is called the wattle. The mud is plastered over the wattle, sealing it inside. The wattle gives the wall its shape, and the daub gives it the weight. Together, they make a barrier that the frost cannot cross. You look up. The walls are not straight like the walls in a modern house. They curve slightly. They lean in a little, following the shape of the great timber frames that hold up the roof. These timbers are huge. They are dark, almost black from years of smoke. They are not cut into perfect square beams. They are whole tree trunks, split down the middle. They are called crux. To find them, the woodcutters had to search the forest for trees that grew with a natural bend, curve. They look for a tree that curves like the ribs of a giant animal. When they find two matching trees, they lean them together to make a pointed arch. It looks like the letterer. These great wooden ribs are the bones of your house. They are strong enough to hold up the heavy thatched roof, even when it is covered in thick snow. You run your hand down the dark wood of the crook frame. It is polished smooth by years of hands touching it. It feels solid and permanent. This wood was growing in the forest before your grandfather was born. It will still be standing here long after you are gone. The wall you are touching has been painted. It is not just brown mud. It has been covered in a thin layer of white liquid. This is called whitewash. It is made from chalk or lime mixed with water. It is a simple thing, but it makes a huge difference in the winter. The nights are long and dark. The sun sets early. You only have the fire to see by. If the walls were dark brown, the room would feel like a cave. It would absorb all the light. But the white walls act like a mirror. They catch the glow of the fire and bounce it back into the room. They make the small space feel bigger. They make the single fire feel brighter. You step back and look at the wall again. You can see the marks of the hands that smoothed it. There are shallow grooves where fingers push the wet clay into place. It is a personal thing. A stone wall is cut with a chisel. A brick wall is made in a mold, but a mud wall is made by hand. It carries the shape of the people who live here. Outside, the wind gusts again. You hear it hit the other side of the wall. It makes a dull thud sound, like a heavy blanket being shaken. The wind is searching for a crack. It is hunting for a hole. But the mud is solid. You listen. You can hear the wind whistling around the corner of the house. You can hear it rattling the bare branches of the trees nearby. It sounds angry. It sounds cold, but inside, the air is still. The flame of the candle sitting on a shelf does not even flicker. The wall is doing its job. It is a shield. It separates the freezing death of the winter night from the warm life of the family. It is a quiet miracle of dirt and sticks. You walk along the perimeter of the room. The floor under your feet is dirt, too. It is packed down hard, almost like concrete. It is swept clean. There is no dust. In the corners of the room, the walls are shadowed. It is darker there. You can see a wooden chest pushed against the wall. It is made of oak, bound with iron straps. It holds the family's few treasures, maybe a special blanket, a metal cup, or some tools. Above the chest, hanging on a wooden peg driven into the mud wall, is a bundle of dried herbs. They are grey and brittle now. It looks like sage or maybe mugwort. They were hung there in the summer to dry. Now, they give off a very faint, dusty scent. It smells like a memory of the warm sun. You feel a sense of deep gratitude for these walls. They are not grand. They are not made of marble or gold. If a king rode past, he would not even look at this little hut. But tonight, this hut is more valuable than a palace. A palace has big, drafty halls that are impossible to heat. A palace are stone floors that freeze your feet. This hut is small. It is low. It holds the heat like a cupped hand. You are inside the earth, wrapped in a blanket of clay. The fire pops again, sending a little spark shooting up towards the dark roof. The light flares for a second, illuminating the white wall. For a moment, the wall looks like it is glowing from within. It feels alive. You move away from the wall, back towards the warmth of the center. You have checked the perimeter. The shell is secure. The wind is locked out. You are contained within the safety of the mud and the straw. The night can do its worst outside. You are ready for it. You turn away from the solid mud wall. The room feels warm and safe. But then you feel it. It is a sudden, sharp touch of cold air. It hits the back of your neck. It feels like someone has placed a cold, wet finger against your skin. You shiver. The warmth of the fire is fighting a battle, but there is still an enemy trying to get in. You follow the feeling of the cold air. You walk across the beaten earth floor. You move towards the far side of the hut. There, cut into the thick wall, is a square hole. This is the window. In your time, a window is a sheet of clear glass. It is invisible. It lets the light in and keeps the weather out. But here, glass is a treasure. It is something you might see in the high-stained windows of a great church, far away in the city, or maybe in the castle of a very rich lord. Glass is like frozen water that never melts. It is magic, and it is far too expensive for a simple farm. Here, a window is exactly what the old word says it is. The word comes from the old language of the Northmen. They called it a vindorga. It means wind eye. Right now, it is an eye looking out into the dark, and the wind is definitely coming through it. The opening is not very big. It is small and narrow, barely wide enough for a man, to squeeze his shoulders through. This is on purpose. A big window would let in too much cold. A big window would weaken the wall. So you keep it small. During the day, when the sun is out, this hole is your only source of light other than the door. You might cover it with a piece of stretched linen cloth, soaked in animal fat or oil. The oil makes the cloth turn yellow and thin. It lets a hazy, golden light shine through, but you cannot see through it. It stops the wind, mostly. But tonight, the cloth is not enough. The storm is coming. The temperature is dropping fast. You need something stronger than a piece of oily fabric. You reach out to the side of the window frame. Hanging there on leather hinges is a heavy board. This is the shutter. It is made of a single, thick plank of oak wood. It is dark and heavy. It has been cut roughly with an axe. You can feel the marks of the tool on the wood. It is not smooth like a table. It is ridged and bumpy. You grab the edge of the shutter. The wood is cold. It has absorbed the temperature of the outside air. You pull it across the open hole. The leather hinges creak. They are stiff with the cold, just like your boots were. Thump. The shutter slams into the frame. The sound is dull and solid. Instantly, the noise of the wind outside changes. Before, it was a loud whistling sound right in the room with you. Now, it is a muffled roar. It sounds angry, but far away. The draft on your neck stops. The candle flame on the shelf stands up straight again. But you are not done yet. You know that wood can warp. Wood can twist as it dries. The shutter does not fit perfectly against the frame. There are gaps. You lean close to the shutter. You can feel thin ribbons of freezing air hissing through the cracks where the wood meets the wall. If you leave these gaps, the room will never get truly warm. The heat will leak out like water from a cracked bucket. You look down at the floor near the wall. There is a basket woven from willow branches. Inside, there is a pile of old rags. These are scraps of wool that were too worn out to wear. Maybe an old sock that had too many holes, or a sleeve from a tunic that was ripped in the fields. You pick up a handful of these wool scraps. They are soft and grey. You roll them into a long sausage shape in your hands. You press the wool into the crack between the shutter and the wall. You use your thumb to push it in deep. The wool is scratchy, but it does a good job. It expands to fill the space. You work your way around the whole square. Top, bottom, left, right. You are sealing the seal. You are plugging the leaks. When you run out of rags, you use morse. You have a pile of dried morse gathered from the woods in the autumn. It is dry and crumbly, smelling of the forest floor. You stuff it into the smaller holes. It packs down tight. This is a job you do every single night in the winter. It is a ritual. Open the shutters in the morning to let the smoke out and the light in. Close them at night to keep the life in and the death out. You step back to inspect your work. The window is gone. Now it is just a patch of dark wood and grey wool. You put your hand up to the cracks. You feel nothing. The air is still. You have won this little battle. Now you turn your attention to the door. It is the biggest opening in the house. You walked through it only a few minutes ago. It is closed, but is it tight? You walk over to the entrance. The door is made of planks nailed together. At the bottom, there is always a gap where the door meets the dirt floor. The dirt gets worn away by feet stepping in and out, leaving a hollow space. You can see a faint line of grey light at the bottom of the door. That is the moonlight reflecting off the snow outside. If light can get in, the cold can get in. You look around for the draft excluder. It is a heavy, long bag made of rough canvas. It is filled with sand or perhaps dried peas. It looks like a heavy snake lying on the floor. You bend down and pick it up. It is surprisingly heavy. You drag it over to the door. You kick it into place with the toe of your boot. You jam it right up against the bottom of the wood. The line of moonlight disappears. The draft stops. Now, the house is truly closed. You are inside a sealed box. The only opening left is the hole in the roof for the smoke, but that is high up, and the rising heat keeps the cold air from coming down it. You stand in the middle of the room and just listen. The silence is different now. It is a warm silence. The wind is still howling outside. You can hear it tearing at the corners of the roof. You can hear it shaking the trees, but it sounds like it belongs to a different world. It cannot touch you here. You feel a sense of satisfaction. It is a simple feeling, but a deep one. You have made a safe space. In a world that is wild and dangerous, you have created a pocket of calm. You look at the fire. It seems to burn more steadily now. The flames are reaching up straight, no longer dancing sideways from the breeze. The shadows on the walls are still. The warmth is starting to build up. You can feel it on your face. The house is ready for the night. The shell is secure. The eyes of the house are closed. It is time to turn your attention to the heart of the home. It is time to feed the fire. The house is sealed. The walls are thick. The wind is locked out. Now, you turn to the center of the room. This is the most important place in your world. This is where the life of the house begins and ends. It is the hearth. In a modern house, the fire might be tucked away in a fireplace against a wall, hidden inside a chimney. But here, the fire is right in the middle of the floor. It is the heart of the home, beating with heat and light. It is the only reason you can survive in this frozen land. You walk towards it. There is no raised metal grate. There is no stone chimney. The hearth is simply a circle on the dirt floor. It is marked by a ring of flat, grey stones. They are smooth and blackened by years of soot. Inside the ring of stones, the earth is baked hard and red from the heat of 1,000 fires. Right now, the fire is low. It has been kept small during the day to save wood. It is just a bed of glowing red embers, pulsing gently like a breathing animal. A few small sticks are charred and black, giving off a thin trail of grey smoke. The room is chilly. The heat from the day is fading. You need to wake the fire up. You need to build a blaze that will fight the sub-zero night. You kneel on the dirt floor. The ground is cool against your knees. You reach for the iron poker. It is a simple metal rod with a hooked end, heavy and cold in your hand. You push the ash aside. The ash is soft and grey, like fine powder. Underneath, you find the heart of the fire. These are the deep coals. They are small chunks of burning wood that hold the heat for hours. They glow with a deep, intense orange color. They look like dragon eyes staring back at you from the grey dust. You gently scrape the coals together into a small pile. You are concentrating the heat. You lean forward and blow softly on them. Husu, your breath disturbs the ash, sending a little cloud of grey dust into the air. The coals brighten. The orange turns to a bright, angry yellow. They are hungry. They want to burn. You reach for the kindling basket. It is filled with small, dry things. There are twigs that snap easily in your fingers. There are dried fern leaves that crumble into dust. There are shavings of wood from the carpenter's bench. You take a handful of dried bracken brown, crinkly fern leaves gathered from the heath in autumn. You place them gently on top of the glowing coals. You do not smother them. You leave gaps for the air to get in. Fire needs to breathe, just like you. You watch closely. For a second, nothing happens. The leaves just sit there on the hot coals. Then, a thin line of white smoke appears. It twists up. Suddenly, whoomph. A small yellow flame jumps up. It catches the dry leaves. They curl and blacken instantly, turning into bright ribbons of fire. Now you act quickly but carefully. You add the small twigs. You place them in a pyramid shape, leaning them against each other like a tiny tent. The flames lick at the wood. They crackle and pop. The fire is growing. It is climbing the ladder you have built for it. The light in the room changes. The dim, grey twilight is pushed back. A warm, golden glow spreads out from the center. It lights up your hands. It lights up the toes of your boots. It casts your shadow big and tall against the wall behind you. You can feel the heat hitting your face now. It feels like the sun coming out from behind a cloud. Your skin tingles. The cold tip of your nose starts to warm up, but twigs burn too fast. They give light, but they do not give the deep, lasting heat you need for a winter night. You need the heavy fuel. You reach for a log. It is a piece of oak, heavy and dense. It has been drying in the woodshed for 2 years. If you burn wet wood, it just hisses and smokes. It gives no heat. But this wood is bone dry. It is ready to release the energy of the sun that it stored years ago. You place the log carefully at the back of the fire. You do not just throw it on. You place it so it acts like a wall, reflecting the heat back into the room. Then you add another log on the side. The fire is now established. It is a living thing in the middle of your home. It makes a steady, rushing sound as the air is sucked into the flames. Roar, crackle, snap. You sit back on your heels and watch it for a moment. This is your television. This is your entertainment. You can stare into the flames and see shapes changing and moving. You can see cities building and falling in the glowing coals. Above the fire, the smoke rises in a straight column. It goes up towards the roof. There is no chimney pipe. The smoke just drifts up into the rafters. It hangs there, a blue-grey cloud among the dark beams. This sounds like it would be terrible. You might think the room would be full of choking smoke. But the house is designed for this. The roof is high. The smoke gathers up there, forming a warm blanket near the ceiling. It actually helps to keep the heat in. And the smoke kills the bugs that might try to live in the thatch. It hardens the straw and keeps the roof dry. Eventually, the smoke finds its way out through small gaps in the thatch or a special hole at the peak of the roof. But down here, where you are sitting, the air is mostly clear. You can smell the smoke. It is always there, a part of you, a smell that is in your clothes and your hair, but it does not choke you. You hold your hands out towards the flames. You turn them over, warming your palms, then the backs of your hands. The stiffness leaves your fingers. The blood starts to flow freely again. This fire is more than just heat. It is the center of gravity for the family. In a little while, everyone will gather here. The children will sit on the floor. The old ones will sit on the stools. The dog will curl up as close as he dares without singing his fur. Everything happens here. You cook here. You dry your wet clothes here. You talk here. You tell stories here. If the fire goes out, the house dies. If the fire is burning, the house is alive. You pick up the poker again and give the logs a little nudge. A shower of golden sparks flies up into the darkness. They look like fireflies. They swirl in the rising heat, glowing bright for a second before fading into ash. The room is warming up. The battle against the frost is swinging in your favor. The heart of the house is beating strong. But a fire is a hungry beast. It eats constantly. And tonight is going to be very, very long. You need to make sure you have enough food for the beast. You need to look at your supplies. You stand up, your knees cracking slightly, and turn towards the door where the fuel is stacked. You leave the warm circle of the fire. You walk back towards the door, to the place where the wall meets the floor. The air is cooler here. The heat from the fire fades a little with every step you take away from the center. This is the storage area. This is where you keep the fuel. To survive the night, you need more than just a spark. You need a mountain of fuel. You cannot go outside in the middle of the night to get more wood. It is too dark, and the snow might be too deep. If the door is opened, the precious heat you have saved will rush out. So, you have to bring the night's supply inside before the sun goes down. You look at the stack you have built. It is a comforting sight. It is a messy, beautiful pile of brown and grey shapes, piled up almost to the height of your shoulder. It smells of the forest. It smells of damp bark and dry moss. You kneel down to inspect your supplies. You need to organize them. You need to know exactly what you have, so you can feed the fire correctly in the dark. First, you look at the bottom of the pile. This is the heavy artillery. These are the logs. They are thick and round, still wearing their rough, craggy bark. Most of them are oak. Oak is the king of the firewood. It is hard and heavy. When you pick up a piece, it feels like a stone. You run your hand over the rough bark. It scratches your palm. You can see the rings at the end of the log, tight little circles that count the years of the tree's life. This wood will burn slowly. It will not flare up and vanish in a minute. It will sit in the heart of the fire and glow 4 hours, releasing its heat steadily. These logs are for the middle of the night, when everyone is asleep and the cold is pressing hardest against the walls. Next to the oak, you have a pile of birch. The bark on these logs is different. It is silver and white, peeling off in thin, papery sheets. You pull a little strip of birch bark off. It feels soft, almost like skin. This wood is lighter. It burns faster and brighter. You will use this if the fire gets too low and needs to wake up quickly. It catches the flame easily, hissing and popping as the sap boils. But you do not just have logs. Logs are hard to cut. You need a big axe and a lot of strength to chop down a tree. And often, you are not allowed to cut down the big trees. The big trees belong to the Lord who owns the land. If you cut down his oak tree, you could be in big trouble. So, most of your fuel is not logs. It is sticks. You look at the huge bundle of sticks tied together with a twisted willow branch. This is your main fuel. These are long, straight poles, about as thick as your wrist. They are mostly hazel or willow. These sticks did not come from a dead tree. They came from a living one. You practice a clever way of farming the forest. It is called coppicing. Years ago, you cut a hazel tree right down to the ground, but you did not kill it. The roots were still alive. The next spring, the tree pushed up 10 to 20 new shoots from the stump. These shoots grew fast and straight, reaching for the sun. After 7 years, they were tall and thick. You cut them again, harvesting a crop of wood, and the tree started over. It is a circle of life. You can harvest the same tree for your whole life, and it never dies. You untie the bundle. The sticks tumble out with a dry clatter. You stack them neatly. These are good for cooking. They give a hot, high flame that licks the bottom of the pot. They heat the soup quickly, but they burn away fast, leaving only white ash. You have to keep feeding them to the fire, one after another. Finally, you look at the dark pile in the corner. These are not wood at all. They look like bricks made of dried chocolate cake. They are dark brown, almost black, and they are hairy with little dried roots. This is peat. You pick up a block of peat. It is light, much lighter than the oak log, but it feels dense. It does not smell like wood. It smells deep and rich, like wet soil and old leaves. This fuel comes from the bog, the wet marshland down in the valley. In the summer, the ground there is soft and spongy. It is made of moss and plants that have died and been squeezed together for thousands of years. You went there with a special spade. You cut these bricks out of the wet ground. They were heavy and soaking wet, dripping with black water. You stacked them in little pyramids on the grass to dry in the summer wind. 4 weeks, they sat there, shrinking and hardening. Now, they are dry. They are ready. Peat is a special fuel. It does not make big, dancing flames like the hazel sticks. It does not crackle and pop like the pine. It smolders. It glows with a dull, red light. It produces a lot of smoke, but the smoke smells sweet and aromatic. It is a smell that you love. It is the smell of home. The best thing about peat is that it lasts a very long time. If you bury a block of peat in the hot ashes before you go to sleep, it will still be glowing in the morning. It keeps the fire alive while you dream. It is the guardian of the spark. You pick up a few blocks of peat and stack them closer to the hearth. You want them to be within arm's reach. Tonight, when the wind is howling and the snow is piling up against the door, you do not want to leave your warm bed. You want to be able to reach out a sleepy hand, grab a peat block, and drop it on the fire without even opening your eyes. You dust off your hands. Your palms are covered in brown dust and little splinters of wood. You clap your hands together softly to clean them. Pat, pat. The dust floats down to the dirt floor. You feel a sense of security looking at this pile. It is your bank account. It is your wealth. A man with gold coins, but no wood will freeze to death tonight. A man with no money, but a high stack of dry oak and peat will live like a king. You have enough. You have the oak for the deep cold. You have the hazel for the cooking. You have the peat for the sleeping. You take one last look at the door. You check the gaps again. You can see a few flakes of snow that have blown in through a crack before you sealed it. They are sitting on the wood pile, tiny white stars that are slowly melting into water droplets. It is a reminder of what is waiting outside. The cold is patient. It is waiting for you to run out of wood, but you are ready for it. You pick up one of the hazel sticks. It is smooth and grey. You break it over your knee. Crack. The sound is loud in the quiet room. It sounds like a gunshot. You carry the two halves back to the fire. You sit down again on your stool. You feed the broken stick to the flames. The fire grabs it instantly. You watch the wood darken, then glow red, then turn to white ash. It is releasing the sunlight of a summer from 7 years ago. You are releasing the summer into the winter room. It is a kind of magic. You lean back, satisfied. The fuel is gathered. The fire is fed. Now, you must prepare the living things. You are not the only one who needs to stay warm tonight. You sit by the fire for a moment, enjoying the heat on your face, but there is a sound that breaks your rest. It is a low, mournful sound coming from outside. Moo. It is the cow. She is standing by the wall of the house, waiting, and she is not alone. You can hear the soft, nervous bleating of the sheep. Baa, baa, they are cold. Their breath is freezing in the night air just like yours. They are huddled together, trying to share their warmth, but the wind is stripping it away. You cannot leave them out there. If you leave them in the field tonight, you might find them frozen in the morning. A dead cow is a disaster. A cow gives milk, cheese, and butter. A sheep gives wool for your clothes. They are not just animals. They are your survival partners. You stand up. You pull your cloak tight again. You walk to the door. You have to open the seal you made, just for a moment. You kick the draft excluder aside. You lift the heavy latch. Clunk. You push the door open. The cold air rushes in instantly. It feels like a bucket of ice water has been thrown into the room. The fire flickers wildly. You step out quickly, into the dark. The animals are right there. They are pressing against the wood of the house, trying to get close to the heat that leaks through the walls. You can see their eyes reflecting the light from the open door. They look big and wet and frightened. Come on then, you whisper. Your voice is gentle. You do not need a rope. They know where they want to go. You step aside, holding the door wide. The cow goes first. She's a small, hardy beast, with a shaggy coat of reddish-brown hair. She steps over the threshold, her hoofs clopping loudly on the wooden plank. She lowers her head to clear the door frame. As she passes you, you can feel the heat radiating from her big body. She smells of milk and wet grass. She walks straight into the house. She does not stop in the main room. She knows her place. At the far end of the long hut, the floor slopes down slightly. There is a wooden partition, a low fence that separates the living space from the animal space. This lower end is called the byre. She walks down the slope and settles into the straw that is piled there. She lets out a long, shuddering breath. Whoosh, she's safe. Next come the sheep, 2 of them. They are round bundles of grey wool. They trot in quickly, their little hooves clicking on the dirt floor. They follow the cow, pushing against each other to be the first one in. They scramble over the low fence and huddle next to the cow. Finally, the pig. He's not a pink, clean pig like in a storybook. He's dark and hairy, with stiff bristles on his back. He's smart and he's stubborn. He grunts as he trots past you, his snout twitching. He heads straight for the byre, digging himself a little nest in the deepest part of the straw. You step back inside and heave the door shut. You slam the latch down. You kick the draft excluder back into place. The cold draft is cut off again. The room feels different now. It is smaller. It is more crowded. But it is also warmer. This is the genius of the longhouse. You do not build a separate barn for the animals. That would be a waste. The animals are living heaters. A cow is like a giant radiator. Her body temperature is higher than yours. She produces a huge amount of heat, just by digesting the grass in her 4 stomachs. By bringing them inside, you are adding 3 or 4 large heaters to your room. You walk over to the low fence and look at them. The cow has already folded her legs under her. She's chewing her cud, her jaw moving in a slow, rhythmic circle. The sheep are pressed against her flank, burying their noses in her warm fur. The pig is already asleep, snoring softly. The smell in the room has changed. It is stronger now. It smells of the farmyard. To a modern nose, it might be too much. It smells of manure and wet fur and animal breath. But to you, it is a good smell. It is a rich, warm, organic smell. It smells of life. You can hear them breathing. It is a steady, comforting sound. Half, half, half. It mixes with the crackle of the fire. Their presence changes the air itself. Their breath adds moisture to the dry winter air. The room feels less brittle. The humidity rises slightly, making the heat feel softer and more enveloping. You lean against the wooden post that separates your world from theirs. You watch the steam rising from the cow's back as she warms up. You are all in this together. There is no separation between human and beast tonight. You are just a group of living things, huddling in a cave of mud and wood, waiting for the sun to return. The cow turns her head and looks at you with her big, dark eyes. She blinks slowly. She seems to be saying thank you, or maybe she's just saying, it's about time. You realize that without them, you would be much colder, and without you, they would be dead. It is a fair trade. You give them walls and a roof. They give you heat and milk. You turn back to the fire. The temperature in the room is already rising. You can feel it. The animal heat is working. The bottom end of the house, where they are sleeping, acts like a thermal buffer. It protects the living area from the draft of the lower wall. You are not alone in the dark anymore. You have company. The house is full. The breathing of the animals sets a slow, sleepy rhythm for the night. It is a lullaby of survival. You feel a wave of tiredness wash over you. The adrenaline of the cold walk and the chores is fading. The warmth is making your eyelids heavy. The sound of the cow chewing is hypnotic. Crunch, crunch, swallow. It is time to think about your own comfort. The animals are settled. The fire is fed. The walls are sealed. Now you need to prepare your own body for the long sleep. You need to wrap yourself up. You look down at your clothes. They are good, but they are not enough for sleeping on the floor. You need layers. You step away from the animal pen. The air is thick with their warmth, but you need to focus on your own body now. The fire is hot on your front, but your back is still cool. The heat of the fire does not reach everywhere. To sleep through a sub-zero night on a dirt floor, you need to become your own insulator. You need to trap your body heat before it floats away into the rafters. You are already wearing your day clothes. These are the clothes you have worked in since dawn. First, nearest to your skin, You have your linen shirt. It is a long, loose garment that reaches down to your knees. It used to be white, perhaps, when it was new. Now it is a soft, creamy beige color. Linen is made from the flax plant. It is a vegetable fabric. It feels cool and smooth against your skin. It is good for absorbing sweat when you are working hard in the fields. But linen offers no warmth. It is thin. It does not hold the air. Over the linen, you are wearing a tunic. This is made of wool. It is dyed a dull reddish brown, using the roots of the madder plant. The wool is not soft like a modern sweater. It is sturdy. It has a bite to it. You can feel the fibers rubbing against your wrists. But this roughness is what makes it warm. The wool fibers are crinkly. They trap millions of tiny pockets of air. That air gets warm from your body and stays there. But tonight, the tunic is not enough. You need more. You walk over to the wooden chest in the corner. You lift the heavy lid. Inside, folded neatly, are the winter layers. You pull out a hood. This is not attached to a coat. It is a separate garment. It covers your head, your neck, and your shoulders. It looks like a short cape with a hood on top. You pull it over your head. The wool settles around your neck. Instantly, you feel a difference. You lose so much heat from your neck and shoulders. The blood vessels are close to the surface there. The cold air steals the heat from your blood as it travels to your head. The hood stops this. It creates a warm collar of air around your throat. You pull the hood up over your ears. The sounds of the room, the fire, the cow, the wind become muffled and soft. It is like stepping into a cocoon. Next, you look at your legs. You are wearing hose. These are not like modern trousers. They are two separate woolen tubes, one for each leg. They are tied to a belt at your waist. They are tight, fitting close to the skin like thick socks that go all the way up. But the floor is cold. The cold seeps up from the ground. You need to double the layers on your legs. You reach into the chest and pull out a pair of leg wrappings. These are long, narrow strips of woolen cloth, about as wide as your hand. You sit down on a stool. You start at your ankle. You wind the strip around your leg, overlapping it as you go up. You wrap it tight around your calf, all the way to your knee. It looks a bit like a bandage, but it works perfectly. It seals the gap between your boot and your hose. It adds a second thick layer over your shins. When you stand up, your legs feel heavy and solid. You feel like a warrior putting on armor. But your enemy is not a soldier with a sword. Your enemy is the frost. Finally, you wrap your cloak around you again. You do not take it off to sleep. You use it as a blanket. This cloak is the most valuable thing you own. It is made of the thickest, heaviest wool, felted until it is almost waterproof. Felting is when you rub the wool with hot water and soap until the fibers lock together into a solid mat. The wind cannot blow through felt. You wrap the cloak tight. You pull the edges across your chest and pin them with a simple wooden brooch. Now you are a walking bundle of wool. You are a sheep in human shape. You move your arms. The layers are stiff. It is hard to move quickly. You feel bulky and round, but you also feel invincible. The cold air in the room cannot touch your skin. It has to fight through the felt, through the tunic, through the linen, and through the warm air trapped in between. You rub your hands together. They are the only part of you that is still exposed. You pull your sleeves down over your knuckles. There is one more thing. A small, strange item. You pick up a small bag made of rabbit skin. It is soft and furry. Inside, there is a round stone. You had placed this stone in the edge of the fire earlier, just for a short time. It is warm, but not burning hot. You slip the warm stone into the rabbit skin bag. You tuck the bag inside your tunic, right against your chest. The heat from the stone radiates through your layers. It feels like a warm hand pressing against your heart. It spreads slowly through your chest. It is a tiny, portable heater. It will stay warm for an hour or two, just long enough for you to fall asleep. You are dressed for the night shift. You are not wearing pajamas. You are wearing survival gear. You look at the family. They are doing the same. The children are being wrapped in layers of blankets. They look like little bundles of cloth with eyes. You are all transformed. You are no longer individuals with shapes and faces. You are soft, round mounds of wool. The preparation of the body is done, but you cannot sleep standing up. You need a place to lie down. You look at the floor. It is hard-packed dirt. It is unforgiving. If you lie directly on it, it will suck the heat right out of you. You need to build a nest. You turn towards the sleeping area, a raised platform of earth near the wall. It is waiting for you. You are dressed in your armor of wool. You are warm, but you are still standing on the hard earth. It is time to prepare the place where you will actually sleep. In your time, a bed is a piece of furniture. It has legs. It stands high off the floor. It has a mattress made of metal springs or soft foam. It is covered in smooth, cool cotton sheets. But here, a bed is something you build every night. It is not a piece of furniture. It is a nest. You walk to the side of the room, away from the door. Here, the dirt floor is slightly different. There is a low wooden beam pinned to the ground. It marks out a rectangle against the wall. Inside this wooden frame, the earth is covered with a thick layer of dry material. This is the mattress. It is a simple sack made of rough linen cloth. It is the size of a large door. It is stuffed full of straw. During the day, the straw gets squashed flat. It becomes hard and lumpy. If you lay on it now, it would feel like sleeping on a bag of stones. So, you have to wake it up. You have to put the air back inside it. You kneel down. You grab the corners of the mattress. You pull it up and give it a good shake. Hump, hump. The dust flies up into the air. It sparkles in the firelight like tiny gold stars. You use your fists to punch the mattress. You are breaking up the clumps of straw inside. You are making it fluffy again. You can hear the dry stalks crunching and rustling inside the fabric. It sounds like walking through dry autumn leaves. The straw is not just rubbish from the floor. It is carefully chosen. It is usually rice straw or wheat straw. It is long and hollow. Those hollow tubes trap the air. They hold the heat of your body and stop the cold dampness of the ground from seeping into your bones. But straw has a problem. Bugs love it. Fleas and mites like to hide in the hollow stalks. They wait for you to go to sleep so they can have their dinner. So, you have a secret weapon. You reach for a small bundle hanging from the ceiling. It is a bunch of dried plants. They are grey and brittle now, but when you crush them in your hand, they release a sweet, sharp smell. It smells like honey and new-mown grass. This is a plant called lady's bed straw. The name tells you exactly what it is for. You crumble the dried leaves and flowers in your hands. You scatter them over the top of the linen mattress. You push some of them inside the sack through the opening. The smell drifts up to your nose. It is a clean, summer smell. It masks the smell of the smoke and the animals. And, more importantly, the fleas hate it. It is a natural bug spray. Now the base is ready. It is soft. It smells sweet. But rough linen is scratchy against your face. You need a top layer. You need the skins. You walk to the wooden chest one more time. You pull out the heavy furs. These are not the fancy furs of a king. You do not have ermine or mink. You have the skins of the animals you know best. You pull out 3 large sheepskins. They are heavy and floppy. The leather side is soft and suede-like, colored a pale tan. The wool side is thick and creamy white. You lay the first skin down on the straw mattress. You place it fleece side up. You run your hand over the fleece. It is dense, Your fingers sink deep into it. It feels slightly oily. This is the lanolin, the natural grease of the sheep. You do not wash it out. The oil keeps the wool soft, and it helps to keep the damp out. It feels living and warm. You arrange the other skins, so they cover the whole mattress. Now, the rough linen sack is gone. In its place is a sea of soft, white wool. It looks incredibly inviting. It looks like a cloud that has fallen onto the floor. Sheepskin is magical stuff. In the summer, it keeps you cool. In the winter, it is one of the warmest things in the world. It traps warmth even better than your woolen tunic. When you lie on this, the heat from your body will be reflected right back at you. For a pillow, you do not have a soft bag of feathers. Feathers are precious. They are used for arrows or sold to the rich. Your pillow is a bolster. It is a round log of wood, wrapped in a thick piece of woolen cloth. It sounds hard, and it is, but it supports your neck. It keeps your head up high. There is a reason for this. You believe that it is better to sleep with your head lifted up. It helps your chest. It keeps the bad spirits away, and on a practical level, it keeps your head away from the cold draft that runs along the very bottom of the floor. You place the bolster at the head of the bed. You give it a little pat. You stand back and look at your work. The bed is ready. It is a dark, warm island in the shadows of the room. It is a mixture of plant and animal. The straw from the fields, the herbs from the meadow, the skin from the sheep. It is made of the same things that keep you alive during the day. The fire pops loudly. A piece of wood settles into the coals. The light in the room dips for a second, then flares up again. The shadows of the hanging herbs dance on the wall. You feel a deep longing to lie down. Your body is heavy with the work of the day. The cold outside is forgotten for a moment. All that matters is this square of softness. But there is one more thing about this bed. It is big. It is not for one person. It is wide enough for 3 or 4. In your world, privacy is not really a thing. Privacy is cold. Being alone is dangerous. To survive the night, you have to share the heat. The whole family will sleep here, on this one great mattress. You will pack together like puppies in a basket. This is the family huddle. It is the most efficient way to stay warm. A single person sleeping alone, it's a lot of blankets. For people sleeping together act like a giant furnace. You smooth down the edge of a sheepskin. The fur is cool too, the touch right now, but you know that within minutes of lying down, it will be toasty warm. You look over at the children. They are sitting by the fire, their eyes drooping. They are waiting for the signal. They are waiting for the bed to be ready. You take a moment to enjoy the sight of the fresh bed. It looks clean. It looks safe. In a life that is full of mud and hard work, a clean, soft bed is a luxury. It is the best reward you can get. The wind rattles the door latch. Clack, clack. It is a reminder. The night is moving on. The temperature is dropping further. The frost is thickening on the roof. You turn to the others. You nod your head. It is time. The nest is built. The preparations are finished. It is time to huddle. You give a small nod to the others. It is the signal. The time for sitting by the fire is done. The fire is banking down, turning from bright yellow flames to a deep, steady red glow. The air at the edges of the room is getting colder. It is time to merge your warmth. The family moves towards the bed you have built. There is no arguing about who sleeps where. Everyone knows their place. It is a system that has worked since you were a baby. It is a map of warmth. The youngest children go first. They are the most fragile. They have small bodies that lose heat quickly. They crawl into the very middle of the mattress. They sink into the soft sheepskins. They curl up into tight little balls, their knees pulled up to their chests. They are the core. They will be surrounded on all sides by living walls of warmth. Next, the older children lie down. They pack in tight next to the little ones. There is no space for personal space here. You press your back against your brother's back. You press your legs against your sister's legs. You fit together like spoons in a drawer. Finally, it is your turn. You and the other adults take the outside positions. You lie down on the edge of the mattress. Your back is to the cold room. Your face is turned towards the warm center. You are the shield. You are the insulation for the children. The cold air will hit your thick wool cloak first. By the time it tries to get to the middle, it will be stopped. But before you settle, there is one last piece of clothing to put on. It is small, but it is vital. You reach for your coif. This is a close-fitting cap made of white linen. It looks a bit like a baby's bonnet. It ties under your chin with two small strings. You pull it onto your head. It covers your hair completely. It covers your ears. You wear this all day, usually under a hat or a hood, but you also wear it at night. It serves two jobs. First, it keeps your head warm. If your head is cold, your whole body feels cold. Second, it keeps the lice away. It is a barrier between your hair and the bedding. It is much easier to wash a small linen cap than it is to wash a heavy sheepskin rug. You tie the strings under your chin. The linen feels smooth against your cheeks. It feels secure. It tells your body that the day is over. You lie down. The straw mattress crunches softly under your weight. It gives a little, shaping itself to your shoulder and your hip. It is not as soft as a feather bed, but it is supportive. The sheepskin underneath you is instantly warm. It does not feel cold like a cotton sheet. Now comes the cover. You reach down to the foot of the bed. There is a heavy, dark blanket waiting there. It is called a happing. It is a rough, thick weaving of coarse wool. It is heavy. It weighs as much as a small child. You pull it up. You heave it over the whole group. It settles down over the mound of bodies. You tuck the edges in tight under your own body and under the feet at the bottom. You are sealing the package. Under the happing, the world changes instantly. It is dark. The air is still. Within seconds, the temperature begins to rise. You can feel the heat coming from the person next to you. It radiates through their wool clothes and into yours. It is a shared warmth. You are no longer just one person trying to fight the winter. You are a single, giant creature with one big heart. The heat is trapped by the heavy wool blanket. It has nowhere to go, so it stays right there with you. You shift your legs. Your feet are cold. You stretch them out and find a warm spot. Maybe you touch the warm calves of the person next to you. They do not pull away. They understand. A minute later, someone else's cold foot touches your ankle. You do not flinch. You share your heat. It is a silent agreement. The room is quiet now. The only light comes from the dying fire. It casts a low, red glow across the floor, but it does not reach your eyes. You are in the shadow. You listen to the breathing of the family. At first, it is all different. Fast breaths, slow breaths. But as the warmth settles in, the breathing starts to slow down. It starts to sync up. In, out, in, out. It becomes a rhythm, like waves on a shore. It is a very soothing sound. It makes your own heart beat a little slower. You feel a sense of profound safety. Outside, the wind is screaming. Outside, the frost is snapping branches in the forest. But in here, in this huddle of wool and linen and skin, you are untouchable. You close your eyes. The weight of the heavy blanket presses you down into the straw. It feels like a heavy hand holding you safe. The smell of the bed straw herbs is released by the warmth of your bodies. A faint scent of dried flowers drifts up to your nose. You are part of a pile. You are a brick in a wall of warmth. You do not need to do anything else. You do not need to work. You do not need to talk. You just need to lie there and be warm. The winter night is long. It will be 12 hours or more before the sun comes back. But you do not have to face it alone. You have the pack. You pull the edge of the blanket up a little higher, covering your nose. The air inside is warm and recycled. It is cozy. You let your muscles relax. The tension in your shoulders melts away. The huddle is complete. The night shift has begun. You drift in the space between waking and sleeping, held in the warm gravity of the family. You lie there in the dark. Your eyes are open, but you cannot see much. The fire has burned down low. It is no longer sending out bright yellow flames that dance on the walls. Now, it is just a bed of deep red coals, glowing softly like the last light of a setting sun. The room is filled with shadows. The corners of the house have disappeared into the blackness. Because you cannot see, your ears wake up. During the day, the world is full of loud noises. You hear the shouting of people in the fields. You hear the chop of the axe and the clang of the blacksmith's hammer. You hear the carts rattling on the frozen tracks. But at night, the big noises stop. The world becomes very quiet. And in that quietness, you start to hear the small things. You become a listener. You are the guard of the night. The first thing you hear is the wind. It has not stopped. In fact, it sounds louder now that everything else is silent. It rushes around the house. Whoosh! It sounds like a great river flowing past your walls. Every now and then, a strong gust hits the side of the hut. Thud! It feels like a heavy hand pushing against the mud wall. You can hear the wind testing the roof. It pulls at the straw thatch. Scratch, scratch. It sounds like fingers trying to untie a knot. But the thatch holds firm. The ropes you tied in the summer are strong. The wind whistles in frustration as it passes over the chimney hole. It makes a low, hollow sound, like someone blowing across the top of a glass bottle. Whoo! Inside the house, there are other sounds. The house itself is talking. As the temperature drops outside, the wood of the house begins to move. The great oak timbers, the crux that hold up the roof, are cooling down. Wood shrinks when it gets cold. It tightens. Creak. A loud groan comes from the timber above your head. It sounds like the ship is settling at sea. It is a slow, deep sound. It is not a dangerous sound. It just means the house is reacting to the night. It is settling its shoulders against the cold. You know every creak of this house. You know that the beam by the door always cracks once before midnight. You know the roof pole groans when the wind comes from the north. These are familiar voices. They tell you the house is standing strong. Then, there are the animal sounds. From the end of the room, behind the low wooden fence, you hear the cow. She is shifting her weight. Squish, her hooves press into the deep straw and manure. It is a wet, heavy sound. Then you hear a long, slow exhale, puff. It is a sound of total relaxation. Then comes the most comforting sound of all. Crunch, grind, crunch. She's chewing the cud. It is a steady, rhythmic noise. It is slow and methodical. It sounds like a slow drumbeat. It tells you that she is calm. Animals do not chew the cud if they are scared or cold. If she is chewing, all is well. The rhythm of her jaw becomes a lullaby for the whole room. You hear the sheep, too. They are lighter. They make small, dry rustling sounds as they nuzzle into the hay. Every now and then, one of them lets out a little bleat in its sleep. Meh. It is a soft, muffled sound, cut short as the sheep drifts back into dreams. Closer to you, right here in the bed, there is the sound of the family. You are surrounded by breathing. To your left, a deep, slow breath, in ... out. To your right, the quick, light breaths of a child. In out, in out. Someone shifts their leg, and the straw mattress crunches underneath them. The wool blanket slides against itself with a soft swish. These are the sounds of life. In the middle of a frozen, deadly winter, these sounds are a victory. Every breath is a little engine producing heat. Every rustle is a sign that you are all still here, warm and safe. But there is one more sound. It is very small. You have to hold your breath to hear it. Chirp. It comes from the hearth. It is high and sharp. Chirp, chirp. It is a cricket. You call it the hearth cricket. These little insects love the heat. They find their way into the house and live in the cracks between the stones of the fireplace. They stay close to the warm ashes. In your time, people might call an exterminator to get rid of bugs. But here, you like the cricket. You believe it is good luck. There is an old saying in the village, a cricket on the hearth brings luck to the house. Its song means the fire is still warm. If the fire went out, the cricket would go silent. So as long as you hear that little chirp, you know the heart of the house is still beating. It is a tiny, cheerful song in the dark. It reminds you of the summer fields, of long grass and hot sun. It is a promise that the summer will come back one day. You lie there and listen to the orchestra of the night. The wine the enemy, the timbers the shield, the cow the heater, and the cricket the singer. Your ears are painting a picture of the room that your eyes cannot see. You can tell where everyone is just by the sound of their breathing. You can tell how strong the wind is by the pitch of the whistle in the roof. The darkness feels heavy, but it is not empty. It is full of information. Usually, you might be afraid of the dark. The dark is where the wolves are. The dark is where the goblins in the stories live. But tonight, tucked inside the huddle, the dark feels like a blanket. It covers you up. It hides you. The noises outside seem to be getting further away. The roar of the wind is becoming a background drone, like the sound of the sea. It is white noise. It helps to clear your mind. The fire gives a sudden, sharp pop. A spark has burst from a log. It hits the stone circle with a tiny tink. Then silence returns, deeper than before. You feel a sense of connection to the past generations. Your father lay in this spot and listened to the same wind. His father lay here and heard the same timbers creak. The house has held them all. It has listened to their breathing for 100 years. Now it is holding you. You let your head sink deeper into the bolster. The wool hat covers your ears, muffling the sounds even more. The sharp chirp of the cricket becomes soft and fuzzy. The chewing of the cow slows down in your mind. You are drifting. You are floating on a sea of warm straw and soft sounds. The house is doing its job. You do not need to worry. You do not need to watch the door. The door is locked. The shutter is sealed. The daub is solid. You can let go. You can let the night take over. But even as you drift, your nose begins to notice something. It is not a sound. It is a smell. It is something that is always there, but in the stillness of the night, it seems to grow thicker. It is the atmosphere of the house itself. It is the cloud that hangs over your head. You take a slow, deep breath in the dark. The air that fills your lungs is warm, but it is not clear air. It is thick. It has a texture. It tastes of burnt oak and dried peat. It tastes of the earth. This is the atmosphere of the night shift. You are sleeping inside a cloud. In your time, smoke is a bad thing. If a modern house is full of smoke, the alarm screams and you run outside. You have fans and vents to whisk every wisp of grey air away instantly. But here, smoke is a roommate. It lives with you. It is the price you pay for survival. You open your eyes for a second. The fire has settled into a pile of glowing red rocks. Above the fire, you can see a faint, grey haze. It hangs in the air like a ghost. It drifts slowly, swirling in the gentle currents of heat. There is no stone chimney in this house. There is no metal pipe to carry the smoke away. When you built the fire, the smoke rose straight up into the room. It floated up past your head, past the wooden beams, all the way to the high, pointed roof. Up there, In the darkness of the rafters, a great lake of smoke has formed. It hangs there, a few feet above your head. It is like a false ceiling made of grey fog. If you stood up tall on a stall, your head would disappear into it. You would cough and your eyes would water. But down here, near the floor where you are lying, the air is breathable. The smoke stays high because it is hot. As long as you stay low, you are safe. This sounds uncomfortable. And sometimes, when the wind blows the wrong way and pushes the smoke down, it is. Your eyes sting, your throat feels dry and scratchy. You wake up with a cough that tastes like ash. Your clothes, your hair, your skin, everything you own smells like a bonfire. If you walked into a modern office, people would smell you from down the hall. But here, everyone smells like this. It is the smell of being alive. But this smoke is not just a nuisance, it is actually doing a job. If you had a big stone chimney, it would act like a giant vacuum cleaner. It would suck the smoke out, yes, but it would also suck all the warm air out with it. The heat would rush up the chimney and escape into the winter night. The room would be cold. By letting the smoke hang in the roof, you are keeping the heat inside. The layer of smoke acts like a warm blanket trapped against the ceiling. It stops the heat from escaping through the straw thatch. It creates a pocket of warm air that presses down on the room. It is a smoke hood. It keeps the temperature steady. The smoke is also a guardian. The roof is made of straw and reeds. It is a perfect place for bugs, spiders, and beetles to live. It is also a perfect place for birds to build nests. But bugs and birds do not like smoke. The constant cloud of wood smoke kills the insects. It drives the mice away. It coats the straw in a layer of soot that makes it hard and waterproof. It preserves the roof. Without the smoke, your roof might rot away in a few years. With the smoke, it lasts for a lifetime. You look up into the dark shadows of the beams. You cannot see them clearly, but you know what is hanging up there. Hanging from the rafters, hidden in the smoke, are your supplies. There are strips of salted pork. There are sausages stuffed with fat and herbs. There are whole fish caught in the river. They are dangling in the smoke on purpose. The smoke is curing them. It dries the meat out and coats it in a layer of protection. It stops the food from going bad. In a world without a refrigerator, the smoke is your preservative. It turns raw meat into food that will last all winter. So, as you lie there, you are breathing in the smell of your dinner cooking slowly, months in advance. It is a savory, salty smell mixed with the wood. Sometimes, a tiny flake of soot falls from the roof. It is like black snow. It drifts down and lands on your blanket. You brush it away without thinking. It is just part of the house. The beams, up there, are jet black, coated in inches of hard, shiny tar from years of fires. They look like they are made of obsidian glass. You rub your eyes. They feel a little gritty. The smoke sting is something you are used to. It is just a low-level irritation, like a scratchy wool shirt. You barely notice it anymore. You pull the blanket up over your nose. The wool of the blanket acts like a filter. You breathe through the fabric. The air comes through cleaner and warmer. You listen to the fire again. Pop. The smoke shifts slightly. The grey cloud rolls over your head. It is a cozy kind of fog. It makes the room feel small and enclosed. It shuts out the world. You are safe in your smoky burrow. The heat is trapped. The roof is preserved. The meat is curing. The smoke is not just pollution. It is a tool. It is a blanket. It is a preservative. You take another breath. It is a heavy, drowsy air. It makes your head feel heavy. It pushes you deeper into the mattress. The stinging in your eyes fades as you close them tight. You drift back towards the edge of sleep, floating in the warm, grey haze of the winter night. But just as your mind begins to wander, a thought pulls you back. You remember the food hanging in the rafters, and that makes you think of the other food, the food stored down here. You are warm, you are safe, the smoke is drifting above you, and the family is breathing beside you. But your mind is still working a little bit. There is one worrying that always sits at the back of your head in the winter. It is a worrying as old as the hills. Is there enough food? The winter is long. The ground outside is hard as iron. Nothing grows. There are no berries on the bushes. There are no crops in the fields. If you run out of food now, there is nowhere to get more. You cannot go to a supermarket. You cannot order a delivery. You have to last until the spring on what you have right here in this room. So, as you lie in the dark, you do a mental check. You count your treasures. You visit the larder in your mind. You look across the room, through the shadows, to the coolest corner of the house. This is your pantry. It is not a separate room. It is just a collection of shelves and boxes against the wall, away from the heat of the fire. The most important thing sitting there is the ark. This is a huge wooden chest. It is made of thick oak planks, bound with black iron straps. It is heavy and solid. It looks like a treasure chest, and in a way, it is. But it is not filled with gold coins or jewels. It is filled with something much more valuable. It is filled with grain. You picture the inside of the ark. On one side, there is a mountain of oats. On the other side, there is barley. This is your bread. This is your porridge. This is your ale. This is the fuel for your body. You know the ark is 3/4 full. You checked it this morning. You ran your hand through the dry, cool grains. They made a soft sound as they slipped through your fingers. That sound is the sound of safety. Next to the ark, hanging on a string from a wooden peg, are the apples. These are not fresh, juicy red apples like you see in the autumn. If you left an apple out now, it would rot or freeze. These are apple rings. Months ago, when the trees were heavy with fruit, you peeled the apples. You sliced them into thin circles. You took out the cores. Then you threaded them onto a long string, like a necklace of beads. You hung them up near the fire to dry. Now, they are brown and wrinkled. They look like pieces of old leather. They feel rubbery to the touch, but the magic is still inside. The water is gone, but the sugar is still there. When you chew on one, it tastes intensely sweet. It tastes like concentrated sunlight. If you soak them in water, they swell up and turn back into fruit. You count the strings in your head. 1, 2, 3, 4. Plenty. On the shelf above the apples, there are the earthen pots. They are cool and smooth. They are covered with a piece of cloth tied down with string. Inside one pot, there is the salted butter. You made this in the summer when the cow was eating rich green grass and giving lots of milk. You churned the cream until it turned yellow and thick. Then you mixed in lots of salt. The salt stops the butter from going bad. It preserves the fat. This butter is your energy. It will keep you warm when the wind bites. Inside another pot, there are the dried peas and beans. They are hard as little stones. If you threw one at the wall, it would bounce off with a clack. You have a whole sack of these. They are the backbone of your dinner. Every day, you take a handful of these hard stones and throw them into the pot. After hours of boiling, they turn soft and mushy. They make the thick soup that fills your belly. And then, there is the most precious box of all, the salt box. It is small, kept very dry near the fire. Salt is life. Without salt, you cannot cure the meat. Without salt, the food tastes like dust. Salt comes from far away. You have to trade for it. It costs money, but you have a full block of it, sitting there safe and white. You think about the meat hanging in the roof smoke, which you looked at earlier. the bacon, the ham. It is all there. You do the math in your head. The winter has 90 days, maybe 100. You have enough grain for porridge every morning. You have enough beans for stew every night. You have enough dried apples for a treat on the special feast days. A feeling of deep relief washes over you. It is a physical feeling. The knot in your stomach unties. You are prepared. You have worked hard all year for this moment. You plowed the mud. You scattered the seeds. You scared away the birds. You harvested the grain with your sickle until your back ached. And now the work is done. The harvest is in. The barn is full. The larder is stocked. You do not need to be hungry. In a world where hunger is always waiting by the gate, this is the greatest luxury of all. You are a king in your own mud castle, guarding a treasure of oats and dried peas. You listen to the wind again. It sounds less scary now. Let it blow. Let the snow pile up against the door. You do not need to go out. You have everything you need right here. The silence of the room feels richer now. It is the silence of satisfaction. You shift your legs under the heavy wool blanket. You are warm on the outside, and you know you will be fed on the inside. Your mind begins to slow down. The list is checked. The counting is done. The anxiety fades away, replaced by the heavy, sweet pull of sleep. But just as you are about to drop off, a smell drifts past your nose. It is not the dry smell of the pantry. It is a wet, savory smell coming from the fire. It is the smell of the dinner you ate earlier, and the dinner you will eat tomorrow. It is the smell of the eternal pot. You breathe in the air. It smells of the wood smoke, yes, but under the smoke there is another smell. It is rich and thick. It makes your mouth water, just a little bit, even though you are full. It is the smell of the pottage. In the middle of the room, sitting right on the edge of the red coals, is a round iron pot. It has 3 short legs to stand on. It is black and heavy, covered in soot. It looks like a small, dark boulder sitting in the fire. This pot is the belly of the house. Inside it is the stew that keeps you alive. You call it pottage. It is not like a modern soup. Soup is watery. You drink soup. Pottage is different. It is thick. It is heavy, like oatmeal or wet clay. It sticks to the spoon. If you turned the spoon upside down, the pottage would cling to it for a long moment before dropping. The pot never really gets empty. It is always there. This is the perpetual stew. Every day, you take some out to eat, and every day, you put new things in. You throw in a handful of the dried peas you counted earlier. You throw in some chopped onions, maybe a carrot that was hidden in the straw to keep it fresh, maybe a bone from a piece of ham to give it flavor. You add water from the bucket. The new food mixes with the old food. The taste of today mixes with the taste of yesterday, and the day before that. The flavor gets deeper and darker every single day. It is a history of your dinners, all cooking together in one pot. Right now, the fire is low, so the pot is not boiling hard. It is just simmering. It is whispering to the room. Blub. A single bubble rises to the surface of the thick brown stew. It bursts slowly. It releases a little puff of savory steam into the air. Blub. It happens again. It is a very slow, lazy sound. It sounds like thick mud bubbling in a hot spring. It is a sound of patience. The smell that comes from the pot is savory. It smells mostly of peas and beans, which have cooked down into a soft, sweet mash. But there is a sharp tang of onions, and there is a hint of herbs, maybe the dried sage or thyme you crumbled in earlier. There might even be a little bit of bacon fat in there, melting slowly, making the whole room smell rich and salty. It is a heavy, comforting scent. It smells like warmth. It smells like a full stomach. Knowing the pot is there helps you sleep. You know that when you wake up in the freezing cold dark of the morning, you do not have to start cooking from scratch. You do not have to wait 4 hours. The food is already there. It is hot and waiting for you. You will dip your wooden bowl into the pot. You will scoop out the hot, brown mash. It will warm your hands through the wood of the bowl. It will warm your belly from the inside out. It gives you the strength to open the door and face the snow. The pot is like a faithful servant. It works all night while you sleep. It gently cooks the hard beans until they are soft. It blends the flavors together in the dark. The fire keeps the pot warm, and the pot keeps the food warm. It is a perfect circle. You listen to the slow BLUP, BLUP, sound. It matches the beating of your heart. It matches the slow, deep breathing of the cow. The smell surrounds you. It wraps around the bed like another blanket. It is the smell of safety. As long as the pot is full, you are okay. You let the savory scent fill your nose. It is a promise of breakfast. It is a promise of another day. But for now, you do not have to eat. You only have to rest. But not everyone is resting. In the corner of the room, someone is still awake, doing a quiet job by the light of the fire. You are deep in the warm, dark ocean of sleep, but something wakes you up. It is not a loud noise. It is not a cold draft. It is a tiny, rhythmic movement in the room. You blink your eyes open. The heavy wool blanket is pulled up to your nose. You are hot and cozy in the family pile. The room is very dark, but the fire is not quite dead yet. The red coals are casting a weak, orange glow on the floor, and there, sitting on a small three-legged stool right by the edge of the hearth, is a shape. It is grandmother. She is not sleeping. She is sitting up straight, wrapped in her own shawl. Her face is lined and shadowed in the firelight. She looks like a statue carved out of wood, but her hands are moving. She's spinning. In your time, you buy clothes from a shop. A machine in a giant factory makes the thread and weaves the cloth in seconds. But here, there are no machines. There are only fingers. Every single thread in the tunic you are wearing, every thread in the blanket covering you, was made by hand. It was made by twisting tiny hairs of wool together, inch by inch. It is a job that never finishes. To make enough thread for just one shirt, a woman has to spin 4 weeks. To make a whole sail for a boat or a cloak for the winter, it takes months. So, the women do not waste a single minute. They spin while they walk. They spin while they talk. And sometimes, they spin while the rest of the house sleeps. You watch her. It is hypnotic. She is holding a short wooden stick under her left arm. This is called the distaff. Tied to the top of the stick is a big, fluffy cloud of raw wool. It is grey and soft. It looks like she is hugging a piece of a storm cloud. With her left hand, she gently pulls a few fibers from the cloud. She teases them out, making them thin. In her right hand, she holds the spindle. This is a simple tool, but it is clever. It is a straight stick, about as long as your forearm. At the bottom, there is a round weight made of clay or stone. This weight is called the whirl. You watch the magic happen. She gives the spindle a sharp flick with her fingers. Whir. The spindle drops towards the floor, spinning fast. The weight of the stone whirl keeps it turning. As it spins, it grabs the loose wool fibers she is holding. It twists them. It forces them to lock together. In a second, the soft, weak fluff turns into a strong, thin string. It is a dance of gravity and twist. If she lets the spindle drop too far, the thread will break. If she does not spin it fast enough, the thread will be lumpy. But she does not even look at it. Her fingers know exactly what to do. They have done this a million times. Hum, the spindle spins. The thread grows. When the spindle almost hits the dirt floor, she stops it. She winds the new thread around the stick. Then she flicks it again. Whir, drop, stop, wind. It is the heartbeat of the night shift. It is a quiet, steady rhythm. It is not loud enough to wake the others. It is just a soft vibration in the air. You look at her hands. They are old hands. The skin is wrinkled and loose, but they are strong. They are stained with the oil from the wool. These hands have clothed the whole family. They have made the nets that catch the fish. They have made the sacks that hold the grain. The firelight catches the thread as it spins. It looks like a thin line of gold for a split second. You think about the spindle whorl. That little round weight at the bottom. It is just a piece of baked clay with a hole in the middle. You have seen them lying around the house. Sometimes children use them as toys. But without that little weight, you would be naked. That weight provides the momentum. It keeps the energy going. In the silence, you can hear the tiny sound of the wool being pulled. Shtick. It sounds like a dry leaf sliding on stone. The smoke hangs above her head like a canopy. She does not seem to mind the dark. Her fingers can see in the dark. She's in a trance. This is her quiet time. No children are crying. No cows are moaning. It is just her and the thread. It creates a feeling of immense peace in the room. You know that someone is awake. Someone is watching over the house. You are not alone in the blackness. The watcher is there, turning chaos into order, turning fluff into strength. You watch the shadow of the spindle on the floor. It stretches out long and thin, dancing back and forth. The air in the room is cooling down, but she does not shiver. She is moving just enough to keep her blood flowing. The work keeps her warm. You realize that this is how time is measured here, not in minutes or hours, but in yards of yarn. The night is not wasted. The night is being turned into a blanket for next winter. Her head nods a little, but her hands do not stop. The rhythm is deep in her bones. Whir, drop. Your eyelids feel heavy again. The sound is like a lullaby. It is better than silence. It is a sound of productivity and care. It makes you feel looked after. You snuggle deeper into the sheepskin. You pull your cold nose under the blanket. You let the image of the spinning woman fade into your dreams. She is the spider in the web of the family, weaving the safety that holds you all together. Whir. The sound follows you into sleep. The thread is being made. The house is safe. The night rolls on. The soft whirring of the spindle is a gentle background noise, like the purring of a cat, but as you shift in the warmth of the bed, your ear catches another sound. It is different. It is a slow, rhythmic scraping sound. Scritch, scritch, scritch. You lift your head just a fraction, peering over the edge of the heavy wool blanket. The fire is still glowing, a pile of deep red jewels in the center of the room. On the other side of the hearth, opposite the grandmother, sits another figure. It is the man of the house. He is not sleeping either. The night is too valuable to waste on just sleeping. In the winter, the daylight is short. The sun is only up for a few hours. There is no time to do the small jobs during the day. You have to feed the animals, chop the ice, and find the fuel. So, the small, quiet jobs happen now. In the night shift, he's mending a tool. He's holding a piece of pale, creamy wood in his left hand. In his right hand, he holds a small, sharp knife. He's pulling the knife towards him, peeling off thin ribbons of wood. The wood curls up like butter. It falls onto the dirt floor in a little pile of golden shavings. You watch his hands. They are big and rough, scarred from years of working with thorns and stone. But right now, they are moving with incredible gentleness. He's not fighting the wood. He's talking to it with the knife. The tool he's fixing is a bill hook. This is one of the most important tools you own. It looks like a heavy knife with a curved beak at the end, like a bird of prey. You use it for everything. You use it to cut the hazel sticks for the fire. You use it to trim the hedges. You use it to chop the vegetables for the pot. Today, out in the frozen woods, the handle snapped. The old wood had become brittle in the frost. When he swung it at a tough branch crack, the handle broke in two, leaving the metal blade stuck in the tree. In your time, if a tool breaks, you might just throw it away. You might buy a new one at the hardware store for a few coins. It is plastic and metal, made by a machine. It is disposable. But here, nothing is disposable. There is no rubbish bin. There is no landfill. Everything is precious. The metal blade of that bill hook is valuable. It is made of iron. Iron comes from the earth, but it takes a huge amount of work to get it out. You have to dig the ore, melt it in a furnace that is hotter than a volcano, and hammer it into shape. To buy a new iron blade from the village blacksmith would cost you a lot. It might cost you a sheep or weeks of labor. So, you never throw iron away. That metal blade might be 50 years old. It might have belonged to your grandfather. The handle breaks every few years, but the iron is eternal. You watch him shaping the new handle. He has chosen a piece of ash wood. Ash is the best wood for tools. It is white and clean, but the secret of ash is that it absorbs the shock. When you hit a tree with an axe, the shock wave travels up the handle. If the wood is stiff, like oak, it hurts your hands. It jars your bones. But ash is flexible. It soaks up the hit. It is kind to your hands. He's carving the end of the stick to fit into the socket of the metal blade. It has to be perfect. If it is too loose, the blade will fly off and hurt someone. If it is too big, it won't fit. He stops carving. He picks up the heavy iron blade. It is cold and black. He tries to push the wood into the metal hole. It goes in a little way, then stops. It is still too tight. He picks up the knife again. Scritch. He takes off a shaving as thin as a piece of paper. He blows the dust away. He tries again. This is a lesson in patience. You cannot rush it. If you cut off too much, you ruin the wood and have to start all over again. You have to go slow. The smell of the fresh wood drifts across the room. It cuts through the smell of the smoke and the animals. It smells green and sharp. It smells like the forest in the spring. It is a clean, raw scent. He fits the wood into the metal again. This time, it slides in deep. He turns the tool upside down and taps the end of the handle on the stone hearth. Tap, tap, tap. The vibration drives the heavy metal head down onto the wood. It is a tight fit, but he is not done. He needs to lock it in place. He picks up a tiny wedge of wood. It is a different kind of wood, maybe oak, something very hard. He places the wedge into a small cut he made in the top of the handle. He picks up a stone from the floor and uses it as a hammer. Thud, thud. He drives the wedge deep into the ash wood. The wedge forces the handle to spread out inside the metal ring. It presses against the iron with immense force. Now it is locked. No glue, no screws, just the pressure of wood against wood. Friction is the only thing holding it together, but it is strong enough to chop down a forest. He holds the finished tool up to the firelight. He turns it over. The new handle is pale and smooth. The old blade is dark and pitted. It looks like a new limb on an old body. He runs his thumb along the wood. He's checking for splinters. He uses the knife one last time to smooth off a rough edge. He wants it to be comfortable. He will be holding this handle for 10 hours a day. It needs to feel like part of his hand. He places the mended billhook on the floor next to his stool. It is ready for the morning. The disaster of the broken tool is fixed. The anxiety is gone. He leans forward and gathers up the pile of wood shavings. He holds them in his cupped hands. They are light and curly, like ringlets of hair. He tosses them onto the fire. Whoosh! The dry shavings catch fire instantly. They flare up with a bright, clean yellow light. For a moment, the whole room is illuminated. You can see the sleeping faces of the children. You can see the cow chewing in the corner. You can see the smoke swirling in the roof. The light dances on the walls, making the shadows jump. Then, as quickly as it came, the flare dies down. The shavings turn to grey ash. The room returns to the deep, comfortable gloom. The man rubs his hands together. The fire has warmed them. The work has kept his mind busy. He looks satisfied. There is a deep pleasure in fixing things. In your world, you buy new things to feel good. Here, you fix old things to feel safe. He sits there for a moment longer, just watching the coals. The silence comes back. It is heavy and soft. You feel a sense of admiration for him. He did not complain when the tool broke. He did not get angry. He just sat down and fixed it. It is the peasant way. You deal with the problem in front of you. You keep moving. The sound of the knife is gone now. The only sound is the wind outside, which seems to have picked up again. It is whistling a higher note. It sounds colder. You are glad to be inside. You are glad that the tools are ready. You are glad that the walls are thick. You feel your eyes closing again. The little flare of excitement from the burning shavings has faded. The darkness is soothing. You burrow down into the warmth of the sheepskin. You let the image of the pale, smooth wood and the dark iron drift in your mind. The night is long, but the work is done. The tools are sharp. The fire is warm. You are ready to sleep again. But the night has one more surprise for you. The wind is not just noisy. It is persistent. It has found a weakness. You are deep in the world of dreams. You are warm. The heavy weight of the woolen blankets and the animal skins presses you down into the soft straw mattress. You are floating in a dark, cozy bubble. The sound of the family breathing is a steady rhythm that rocks you to sleep. You feel completely safe. The house is a fortress. The fire is the guard. But then, something touches you. It is not a hand. It is not a sound. It is a feeling. It is a sharp, thin line of cold. It touches your cheek. It feels like a piece of ice is being drawn slowly across your skin. You twitch in your sleep. You try to turn your head, burrowing deeper into the sheepskin to escape it. But the cold follows you. It finds your ear. It tickles your neck with freezing fingers. You wake up. Your eyes open into the darkness. For a moment, you are confused. You are still warm under the covers. Your feet are still toasty against the legs of your family. But your face feels different. The air above the bed has changed. You lie very still. You hold your breath. You are hunting for the source. There it is. You can feel it. A steady, purposeful stream of freezing air is cutting through the room. It is invisible, but to your warm skin, it feels solid. It is a draft. In a modern house, a draft might be annoying. It might make you turn up the thermostat. But here, in a mud hut in the middle of a sub-zero winter, a draft is a killer. It is a hole in your armor. If you let it blow all night, it will steal the heat you have worked so hard to build. It will cool the room down stone by stone. It could make the baby sick. It could freeze the water in the bucket. You know what you have to do. You have to get up. This is the hardest moment of the night. Your body is heavy with sleep. Your muscles are relaxed and warm. The space under the blanket is a tropical island. The room outside the blanket is the Arctic Ocean. Every instinct in your brain screams at you to stay still, to hide, to hope it goes away. But you are the history watchman. You are the guardian of the night shift. You cannot ignore the leak. You take a deep breath to prepare yourself. Then, you throw the blanket back. Whoosh! The cold air hits you like a slap. It rushes into your warm clothes. It bites your skin through the linen shirt. You shiver violently. Your teeth want to chatter, but you clench your jaw. You sit up and swing your legs out of the bed. Your feet, covered in their woolen hose, touch the dirt floor. The floor is cold, sucking the heat from your toes instantly. You stand up. You pull your cloak tight around you. You look towards the fire. It is just a pile of grey ash now, with a faint red glow deep inside. It gives almost no light. You are working by feel. You move towards the wall where the coal seems to be coming from. You hold your hand up, palm facing the wall. You use your hand like a sensor. You move it slowly through the black air. Nothing, nothing, nothing. Cold. You stop. You have found a stream. It is hitting the back of your hand. It feels like someone is blowing on you through a straw. You follow the invisible river of air back to the source. You move your hand closer to the wall. The cold gets stronger. It gets sharper. Finally, your fingers touch the mud surface. You feel a crack. It is near the corner of the room, about waist height. You run your finger along it. It is a jagged line in the dried earth, a piece of the daub. The mud plaster has fallen off on the outside of the house. Maybe the frost made it expand and pop. Maybe the wind shook the timber frame, just enough to crack the shell. Whatever the reason, the wall has failed. You can feel the texture of the wood underneath. You can feel the round, smooth shape of a hazel stick. This is the wattle, the woven basketwork inside the wall. Without the mud to cover it, the wattle is full of holes. The wind is whistling right through the gaps in the sticks. It is pouring into your home, bringing the winter with it. You lean close. You can actually hear it hiss. It is a quiet, malice-filled sound. It sounds like a snake. You cannot go outside to fix it. It is pitch black, and you cannot mix wet mud in the freezing cold. The water would turn to ice before you could plaster it on. You have to fix it from the inside. You need a patch. You look around the dark room. You need something soft and pliable. You cannot use wood. It won't seal the edges. You need something that can be stuffed into the crack. You walk over to the storage chest. You move quietly so you don't wake the man or the grandmother who have finally fallen asleep. You feel around in the dark. Your hand touches something rough and hairy. It is a bag of raw wool. This is the stuff the grandmother hasn't spun yet. It is dirty wool, straight from the sheep. It is greasy and smells strong, but it is perfect. You grab a handful of the raw wool. It feels oily in your hand. This oil is lanolin. It makes the wool waterproof. It makes it sticky. You go back to the crack in the wall. You take a small piece of the wool and press it against the hole. You use your thumb to push it deep into the gap between the wattle sticks. The wool compresses. It expands to fill the space. You take another piece. You push it in next to the first one. You are corking the bottle. You are plugging the leak. As you work, you can feel the draft stopping. The hiss of the wind fades away. The jet of cold air that was hitting your stomach disappears. You run your hand over the patch. It feels fuzzy and warm. The wool has become part of the wall. You stand there for a moment in the silence. You wait. You double-check. You move your hand all around the area, hunting for any stragglers. There is nothing. The air is still again. The simple act of plugging a hole feels like a victory. In this life, survival is not about fighting battles with swords. It is about fighting battles with wool and mud. It is about noticing the small things before they become big things. A small crack left alone for a week could let in enough damp to rot the main timber beam. If the beam rots, the roof falls in. So, this little wad of wool just saved the house. You rub your cold hands together. The job is done, but now you are fully awake. The adrenaline of the cold has chased away the sleepiness. You are standing in the middle of a dark, smoky hut at 3 in the morning. You listen to the room. The rhythm has not changed. The family is still breathing in that slow, wave-like pattern. The cow is still chewing. They did not even know they were in danger. They slept right through the attack of the cold. You protected them. You feel a sense of pride. This is your watch. This is your duty. You turn back towards the bed. The straw mattress looks incredibly inviting. You know that the warm spot where you were lying has probably cooled down a little bit, but the heat of the other bodies will still be there. You step carefully over the wooden beam of the bed. You lift a heavy blanket. A wave of trapped heat escapes, smelling of straw and sleep. It smells wonderful. You slide back into your place. You wriggle down until your head is on the bolster. You pull the blanket up high tucking it under your chin. You curl your legs up, pulling them away from the cold air of the room, tucking them into the warmth of the huddle. Your shivering stops. The heat soaks back into your bones. It feels heavy and sweet, like honey. The draft is gone. The snake is gone. The wall is whole again. You close your eyes. The image of the crack in the mud stays in your mind for a second. It is a reminder that nothing in this world is permanent. Everything needs care. Everything needs watching. The walls, the fire, the roof, they are all trying to fail. They are all fighting against the weather, and you are the one holding them together. You let out a long breath. Whoosh, the sleep comes back quickly this time. It pulls you down like a heavy tide. The silence of the room wraps around you. You are safe. You are warm. You are the watchman, and your post is secure. You try to settle back into the warmth of the bed, but your mind is not quite ready to let go. You are thinking about that crack. You are thinking about the piece of raw wool you stuffed into the hole. It is a good fix for an emergency. It stops the fast air, but you know it is not perfect. Wool is porous. It lets the air seep through slowly, and if the wind changes direction, it might blow the wool right out of the wall. You know you cannot sleep soundly until the seal is solid. You need something stronger than fluff. You need earth. You push the blanket back again. This time, you move with more purpose. You know exactly what you need. You walk over to the hearthstones, right to the edge of the fire. Sitting there, in the warmth of the ashes, is a small wooden bucket. It is covered with a wet cloth. This is the puddling bucket. In the summer, you can dig clay from the riverbank anytime, but in the winter, the ground is frozen solid. You cannot dig clay, and you cannot mix it with water because the water would turn to ice before you could use it. So, you have to be prepared. You keep a supply of wet, sticky clay inside the house, right next to the heat. You lift the wet cloth. Inside, the clay is dark grey and shiny. It is not dry. It is wet and soft, like thick dough. It is warm to the touch because it has been sitting by the fire all night. You scoop up a handful of the wet clay. It feels slimy and heavy. It makes a squelching sound as you pull it from the bucket. Squelch. You carry the handful of mud back to the wall, back to the place where you stuffed the wool. You can still feel the cold air trying to push around the edges of the wool plug. The enemy is still there, waiting. You press the warm clay over the wool. You smear it onto the wall. You use the palm of your hand to spread it out. You push hard. You want the clay to grab onto the old, dry wool. You want it to bond. The clay is warm, and the wool is freezing cold. You can feel the temperature difference. The clay seals the gap instantly. It covers the wool completely. It creates a new, airtight skin over the wound in the house. You work the edges with your thumb. You smooth it down. You blend the new mud into the old mud. You are like a sculptor, but you are not making a statue. You are making a shield. The smell of the wet clay fills your nose. It is a damp, mineral smell. It smells like the river bottom. It smells like the earth waking up in the rain. It is a fresh smell in the dry, smoky room. This job is called puddling. It is a constant battle. A mud house is a living thing. It breathes. It expands when it is hot and shrinks when it is cold. This movement creates cracks. If you ignore the cracks, the wind gets in. If the wind gets in, the rain gets in. And if the rain gets in, the mud turns back into soup and washes away. So you are always patching. You are always watching. You are the doctor for the house. You stand back and look at your work in the dim light. The patch is dark and wet against the lighter, dry wall. It looks like a bandage, but it is strong. As it dries, it will become hard as stone. The wind can blow as hard as it likes now. It will not get through. You look at your hand. It is covered in grey slime. You do not wash it off with water. Water is too precious, and the bucket is icy cold. Instead, You wipe your hand on a piece of old sackcloth hanging by the door. The rough fabric scrapes the mud off your skin. You feel a deep sense of satisfaction. The wool was a quick fix, but the clay is a permanent one. You have restored the integrity of the shell. This simple act of spreading mud is one of the oldest human skills. Your ancestors did this. They took the wet earth and made a shelter. They realized that the ground itself could protect them from the sky. You are doing exactly the same thing. You are connecting with the earth to survive the air. You put the cloth back over the clay bucket to keep it moist. You push the bucket a little closer to the coals. You need to make sure it doesn't freeze before morning. You might need it again tomorrow. The room feels tighter now. The draft is truly gone. The silence is complete. You walk back to the bed. Your feet are cold again, but your heart is light. You have defeated the wind twice tonight. You climb back under the covers. The family shifts slightly, making space for you. You feel the warmth hit you immediately. Now, you can really rest. The house is sealed tight. The clay is drying. The fire is glowing. You lie on your back and stare up into the darkness. You are not just waiting for sleep anymore. You are waiting for the morning. But the night is long, and the mind needs something to do while the body rests. You cannot read a book. You cannot look at a phone. So, you do what people have always done in the dark. You remember. You are back in the warmth. The clay patch on the wall is holding. The draft is gone. You settle your head onto the hard bolster log, pulling the sheepskin up to your chin. The family is sleeping deeply. They're breathing heavy and slow. But then, you feel a small movement next to you. A small hand reaches out from the tangle of blankets. It touches your arm. It is one of the children. They are awake. Maybe the cold woke them. Or maybe the sound of you fixing the wall disturbed their dreams. I can hear something. A small voice whispers. It is barely a breath. You listen. Outside. The wind is moaning. It sounds like a voice crying in the distance. To a child in the dark, it sounds like a monster. You do not tell them to be quiet. You do not tell them to go back to sleep. You know that fear is cold. Fear makes you shiver. To keep them warm, you must make them feel safe. You must use the oldest magic you have. You must tell a story. In your time, you have books. You have movies. You have screens that glow with pictures from 1,000,000 miles away. If you want to know what happened in the past, you look it up. But here, there are no books. There is no writing. The only place where the past exists is inside your head. You are the library. You are the movie screen. You shift onto your side so you can speak quietly into the child's ear. You do not want to wake the others. You keep your voice very low. It is a rumble in your chest, a sound that they can feel as much as they can hear. That is not a monster, you whisper. That is just Old Man Winter. He's looking for his lost coat. You begin the tale. It is a story you heard from your grandmother when you were small. She heard it from her father. It goes back and back, like a long chain of whispers stretching into the past. Long ago, you say, the world was always hot. The sun never set. The grass was always green. The child stops wiggling. They are listening. But Old Man Winter lived in the north. He was made of ice. His beard was made of snow. He was jealous of the green grass. So one night, he came down from the mountains. He blew his cold breath on the trees, and the leaves fell off. He walked on the river, and the water turned to stone. You pause for effect. The wind outside howls right on cue. Hoo-oo. He's trying to get in, you whisper. He wants to sit by our fire, but he is too big. If he came in, he would melt. So he has to stay outside. He's singing because he is lonely. This changes the picture in the child's mind. The wind is not a monster trying to eat them. It is just a sad, lonely giant. It is not scary anymore. It is just a little bit sad. You continue the story. You tell them about the hero who sleeps deep under the hill. He's waiting for the spring. When the first green shoot comes up through the snow, he will wake up. He will chase Old Man Winter back to the mountains. The sun will come back, you promise. It always comes back. The giant cannot stay forever. This is not just entertainment. It is a lesson. Every story you tell has a purpose. The story about the girl who got lost in the woods teaches them not to wander off. The story about the wolves teaches them to listen. The story about the winter teaches them patience. You are teaching them how to survive without giving them a lecture. You are painting a map of the world in their minds. You are telling them that the world is dangerous, yes, but it follows rules. Winter comes, but spring follows. Night falls, but the sun rises. You can feel the child relaxing against you. The tension leaves their small body. They are watching the movie in their head. They can see the ice giant. They can see the sleeping hero. They are not looking at the dark room anymore. You keep your voice rhythmic. You speak in a slow, sing-song way. It is like a chant, dum-da-dum, dum-da-dum. The rhythm is hypnotic. It matches the beating of the heart. It is designed to put the brain to sleep. And so, you whisper. The house stays warm. The fire stays bright. And we stay safe inside the wall. The child's breathing slows down. Their eyes are heavy. They are drifting away, carried by your words. You think about the power of these stories. In the summer, when the days are long and the work is hard, there is no time for tales. You are too busy farming. But in the winter, the long dark is the time for remembering. This is how you know who you are. You do not have a family tree written on paper. You have the stories of your ancestors. You know that your great-grandfather built this house. You know that your uncle fought a bear and won. You know these things because someone told you in the dark. Just like this, the story is a thread that ties the family together. It ties the living to the dead. You look around the room. The fire is very dim now. The shadows are long, but the room feels full. It is full of the characters you have summoned. The heroes and the giants are watching over the bed. The child is asleep now. Their hand goes limp. You stop speaking, but you let the hum of your voice fade away slowly, so the silence does not wake them up. You lie there in the quiet. You replay the story in your own mind. Even though you are an adult, even though you know it is just a story, it gives you comfort too. It makes sense of the world. It gives a face to the enemy outside. You think about the Shorps and the bards, the professional storytellers who travel from castle to castle. They get paid in gold and wine to tell great epics about dragons and kings. But your stories are different. Your stories are small. They are about the farm, the wood, the river. They are about this life. They are the stories of the mud hut. They are not written down in any great book. If the family dies, the stories die with them. That is why you have to keep telling them. You are the keeper of the flame. Outside, the wind gusts again. It rattles the shutter. Thump. Go away, old man. You think to yourself. You cannot get in tonight. You smile in the dark. The story worked. The fear is gone. You pull the blanket up over your ear. The air in the room is getting colder. The night is reaching its deepest point. The hours of storytelling are over. Now comes the hard silence. The time when the night tries its hardest to freeze the world. You close your eyes. You let the images of the story fade. You are just a body in a bed again. But you are a body with a history. You are part of a long line of people who survived the dark by talking to each other. The silence returns, but it is a gentle silence now. It is the silence of a library after the book is closed. You drift. You float. You wait for the turning of the tide. You wait for the dead of night. You wake up. It is not a sudden waking. It is not because of a noise or a touch. You just float up from the deep water of sleep to the surface. You open your eyes. The room is pitch black. The faint orange glow that was lighting the floor earlier is almost gone. The fire has burned down to its very last embers. It is just a tiny, weak pulse of red in the center of the room. It looks like a dying star. You know exactly what time it is. You do not need a clock. You can feel it in your bones. It is the dead of night. In your time, you might call this 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the morning. It is the time when the night is deepest, the energy of the yesterday is gone, and the energy of tomorrow has not arrived yet. It is the hollow space between the days. It is also the Wolf hour. It is called this because it is the time when the wolves are boldest. It is the time when the sheep are most tired. It is the time when the sick and the old often slip away, because the body's strength is at its lowest. The world feels still, as if it is holding its breath. You lie perfectly still. You do not want to move. If you move, you will break the seal of warmth you have created under the blankets. You can feel the change in the room. The heat you built up in the evening has faded. The thick mud walls have done their job well, but even they cannot hold the heat forever. The cold has been pushing against them for 10 hours. It is slowly winning. You take a breath. The air is sharp. It stings your nose. You breathe out. H. In the darkness, you can see a faint grey shape in front of your face. It is your own breath. It is turning into steam inside the house. The moisture in your breath is freezing as soon as it leaves your body. It hangs there for a second, a little ghost of life, before vanishing. This is a dangerous sign. It means the temperature inside the room has dropped near freezing. The bubble of safety is shrinking. It is now just a space under the covers. You look towards the roof. You cannot see the thatch, but you know what is happening up there. The moisture from the cooking pot and the animal's breath has floated up and hit the coal straw. It is turning into hoarfrost. If you lit a candle right now, you would see millions of tiny white crystals sparkling on the black soot of the rafters. The inside of your roof is turning into an ice cave. You listen to the house. The wind has stopped. The storm has passed or paused. The silence is absolute. It is heavy. It presses against your ears. There is no creaking wood, no rustling straw. Even the cricket on the hearth has stopped singing. It has retreated deep into the cracks to save its energy. The animals are silent too. The cow has stopped chewing. She's in a deep, trance-like sleep. You can just barely hear the slow, heavy huff of her breathing. It sounds slower than before. Everything is running on half power. You feel a sense of isolation. You are the only person awake in the world. The village outside is buried in snow. The paths are gone. The next house is only 50 yards away, but it might as well be on the moon. You are completely alone in your mud box. This is the test. This is the moment the winter has been waiting for. It wants to see if you have enough fuel. It wants to see if your blankets are thick enough. You feel a shiver start deep in your chest. It is your body's way of saying, wake up, make heat. You tighten your muscles. You clench your jaw. You suppress the shiver. You do not want to shake the bed and let the cold air in. You instinctively move closer to the person next to you. You press your side against their back. You can feel their heat. It is a lifeline. You borrow a little of their warmth, and they borrow a little of yours. It is a thermal transaction. You wonder if you should get up and put more wood on the fire. You think about the pile of peat you stack so carefully, but you decide against it. To get up now would be too costly. You would lose all the heat you have trapped in the bedding. Your body would cool down in seconds. And if you wake the fire up now, it might burn too fast and be gone by dawn. No, you must wait. You must ride it out. The goal is not to be hot. The goal is just to survive until the sun comes back. You pull your head down completely under the blanket. You make a tent with the wool. Now you are breathing your own recycled air. It is stuffy, but it is warm. In this small, dark tent, you think about the summer. You force your mind to remember the feeling of the sun on your back in the hayfield. You remember the sweat running down your face. You remember the buzzing of the bees. You use the memory like a fuel. The dead of night is not just cold, it is lonely. It feels like the sun has abandoned you. But you know this is just a cycle, the wheel turns. The coldest hour is always just before the dawn. You listen to your own heartbeat. Thump thump, thump thump. It is slow and steady. It is a defiant drum in the silence. It says, I am still here. You focus on that sound. You let it anchor you. You are a warm stone in a cold river. You will not crack. Slowly, very slowly, your body accepts the cold. You enter a state of hibernation. You are not fully asleep, but you are not fully awake. You are just existing. You are preserving. The red eye of the fire winks at you from across the room. It is tired too. You and the fire are in this together, waiting for the morning signal. You drift back into the grey fog of the half-sleep. The dead of night passes over you like a shadow. You have faced the ghost, and you did not blink. You are still awake in the deep quiet. The cold is pressing in, but suddenly, the room changes. Crump. In the center of the room, the fire moves. The pile of grey ash collapses slightly. A piece of the unburnt peat falls into the hot center. It meets a pocket of air. Flicker. A single, small flame jumps up. It is not a roaring fire, just a little tongue of yellow light. But in the total darkness of the Volfhour, it seems as bright as a torch. This sudden light wakes up the walls. You watch the shadows spring up. They stretch out long and thin, climbing up the mud walls towards the roof. They move quickly, dancing and jumping as the little flame flickers. It looks like a silent dance of spirits. You focus your eyes on the big timber beam next to your bed. This is one of the main posts holding up the house. In the daylight, it just looks like a dark piece of wood. But in this moving light, you can see its true face. You can see the marks of the tool that made it. This wood was not cut with a saw. A saw leaves straight, boring lines. A saw makes the wood flat and dead. But this beam was shaped with an adze. An adze is an ancient tool. It looks like an axe, but the blade is turned sideways, like a hoe you would use in the garden. To shape a beam, the carpenter stands on the log. He swings the adze between his legs, chopping off chips of wood. Chop, chop, chop. It is a dangerous job. If he misses, he hits his own shin. But if he is good, he leaves a pattern on the wood. He leaves thousands of shallow, scooped cuts. In the firelight, these scoops catch the shadows. The surface of the wood looks like the surface of a lake when the wind blows over it. It is rippled. It has texture. It looks like honeycomb. As the flame dances, the shadows move across these ripples. It creates an optical illusion. It looks like the wood is flowing. It looks like the tree is remembering when it was alive. You can almost see the sap moving inside it. This is your entertainment in the dark. You do not have a screen to watch. You do not have pictures moving on a glass box. You have the shadow play. Your mind starts to see shapes in the timber. There, near the top of the post, is a knot in the wood. The shadow hits it, and suddenly it looks like the face of an old man. He has a long nose and a dark eye. He looks grumpy. You know him. You have looked at him every night for years. He is the guardian of the corner. Lower down, the adze marks look like the scales of a fish, or maybe the feathers of a bird. If you squint your eyes, the whole room seems to be moving. The tools hanging on the wall cast long, strange shadows. The scythe looks like a giant, thin spider. The bundles of dried herbs look like bats hanging from the ceiling. It might sound scary, but it is not. These are your things. You know them. The shadows are just playing a game with you. In your world, everything has a spirit. The tree has a spirit. The river has a spirit. The house has a spirit. This dancing light makes it easy to believe. It feels like the house is waking up while you sleep. It feels like the wood is stretching its limbs. You watch the light play on the daub, the mud between the timbers. The whitewash glows softly. It catches the yellow light and holds it. It makes the room feel like the inside of a golden shell. This light is precious. It is the only thing pushing back the black weight of the night. It reminds you that the fire is still there. It is weak, but it is not dead. It is waiting to be fed in the morning. You watch the flame flicker one last time. It fights to stay alive. It licks the side of the peat block, trying to find something to burn. But the draft catches it. Puff. The flame goes out. The light vanishes instantly. The shadows disappear back into the wood. The old man's face becomes just a knot again. The fish scales become just cuts in the timber. The darkness rushes back in. It feels even darker than before, but the image of the dancing wood stays in your mind. It was a little moment of magic, a little reminder that the house is built by human hands. Every mark on that wall was made by someone swinging an arm, sweating, working to make a shelter. You are surrounded by the work of your ancestors. You are sleeping inside their effort. You close your eyes again. The show is over. The screen is black, but the feeling of company remains. You are not just in a box of dirt. You are in a work of art, carved with an adze and painted with firelight. You pull the blanket tight. The silence returns, but now it feels a little less lonely. The shadows are sleeping too. You wait for the next change in the night. You wait for the morning chores, and you remember that soon you will have to tend to the source of that light. You will have to bank the fire. The little flame that made the shadows dance is gone. The room is returning to the deep, heavy blackness. But as you watch the last red glow of the coals, you realize something. The glow is getting dim. It is fading too fast. If you fall asleep now and leave it alone, the fire will be dead by morning. To you, a dead fire is a disaster. You do not have a box of matches in your pocket. You cannot just flick a lighter. To start a fire from cold in the morning is a hard, miserable job. You would have to get your flint and steel. You would have to strike them together until your knuckles were raw, trying to catch a spark on a piece of damp fungus. You would have to blow on the spark until you were dizzy. All while the room is freezing and the children are crying for breakfast. You cannot let that happen. You need to keep the seed of the fire alive. You need to put the fire to sleep. This is called banking the fire. Or sometimes, the old people call it snoring. You force yourself to sit up one last time. You leave the warm nest of the bed. The air in the room is at its coldest point now. It feels like walking into water. You move quickly to the hearth. You kneel on the stones. You pick up the iron poker. It is cold in your hand. First, you gently scrape all the hot coals together. They are spread out, trying to cool down. You push them into a tight little pile in the center of the circle. You are gathering the heat. You are making a heart. Next, you reach for your special fuel. You do not use a stick or a log for this. You use a block of the black peat you brought in earlier. You place the heavy, dark brick right on top of the glowing coals. The peat is dense. It will not burst into flame. It will sit there and smolder. It will eat the fire very, very slowly. But this is not enough. If you leave it like this, the air will get to it, and it will burn away in an hour. You need to cut off the air. You need to suffocate the fire just enough to slow it down, but not enough to kill it. You look at the pile of grey ash around the edge of the hearth. This ash is not rubbish. It is a tool. It is the blanket for the fire. You use a small metal shovel, or maybe just a flat piece of wood. You scoop up the soft, grey dust. You pour it gently over the top of the peat and the coals. You cover them completely. You build a little mountain of ash. Poof! A tiny cloud of grey dust rises up. Now, the red glow is gone. The hearth looks dead. It just looks like a pile of cold dirt. But you know the secret. Deep inside that grey mound, the fire is still awake. It is hot and red, protected by the ash. The ash keeps the heat in, but keeps the oxygen out. It puts the fire into a coma. It will stay like this for 8 hours. It will wait for you. This act of banking the fire is a sacred thing. It is the last job of the day. In some houses, the grandmother says a little rhyme while she does it. She asks the angels to watch over the spark. She asks for the house to be safe from burning down while everyone sleeps. You do not say a rhyme, but you feel the importance of it. You are the keeper of the flame. You pat the mound of ash gently with the shovel. You are tucking it in. You are saying good night to the spirit of the house. There is a smell that comes from banking the fire. It is a dry, dusty smell. It tickles your nose. It is different from the smell of burning wood. It smells like old stone and history. You stand up. Your knees crack in the cold. You look down at your work. There is no light left in the room now. The only way you know where the bed is by memory. You navigate back across the floor. You hold your hands out in front of you so you don't bump into the main post. Your foot touches the wooden beam of the bed. You climb back in. The space you left is still warm. You slide back into the hollow in the straw. You pull the heavy covers over your head. You feel a sense of relief. The morning is secure. When you wake up, all you will have to do is rake back the ash, throw on some dry twigs, and blow. The fire will jump back to life instantly. You are passing the baton from tonight to tomorrow. You think about the fact that this fire has never really gone out. Your father banked it, and his father banked it. The fire in your hearth is the great-grandchild of a fire that was lit 100 years ago. It is an unbroken chain of heat. It is a comforting thought. You are not starting over every day. You are just continuing. The room is now totally dark and totally silent. The work is truly done. There is nothing left to check. The door is sealed. The walls are patched. The animals are fed. The fire is banked. You let your body go limp. The tension leaves your shoulders. You sink into the final, deep sleep of the night. The cold air in the room is sharp, but you are deep in your burrow. You are ready for the dreams to take you. But while you sleep, the cold does not stop working. It is searching for water. It is looking for anything wet that it can turn into stone. And there is one thing in the room that cannot be covered with a blanket. The fire is banked. The ash covers the red coals. The heat source is sleeping. Now, the room belongs to the cold. You are still tucked away deep in the family bed, warm and heavy under the sheepskins. But across the room, near the door where the draft is strongest, there is a bucket. It is a simple wooden pail. It is made of oak staves, held together with bands of iron. It sits on a low bench. Yesterday, you filled it with fresh water from the well. The water was clear and moving. It swirled when you dipped the cup into it. But now, in the silence of the deep night, the water is changing. The cold air found it hours ago. At first, nothing happened. The water just got colder and colder. But now, it has reached the tipping point. The water is trying to become a rock. It starts at the edges. Tiny needles of ice begin to grow from the wooden sides of the bucket. They look like delicate, white fern leaves. They reach out across the dark surface of the water, touching each other, locking fingers. They are building a floor, or maybe it is a ceiling. Slowly, a skin forms over the top of the water. It is thin at first, like a sheet of glass. If you threw a pebble at it, it would break. But the cold keeps working. It thickens the skin. It adds layer after layer of ice from the bottom. The sheet becomes a plate. The plate becomes a lid. There is a small object resting in the bucket. It is the dipper. This is a wooden cup on a long handle, carved from a single piece of beechwood. You use it to scoop up water to drink. When you went to bed, you left the dipper floating in the bucket. It was bobbing gently on the surface. Now it is trapped. The ice has grabbed the handle. It has locked around the wood. The dipper is frozen fast in the middle of the bucket. It looks like a ship stuck in the frozen ocean of the north. If you woke up now and wanted a drink, you would have a problem. You would walk over to the bucket in the dark. You would reach for the dipper. You would pull, but it would not move. You would have to make a fist. You would have to punch the ice. Crack. You would have to break the lid to get to the liquid water underneath. The ice shards would float in your drink, clinking against your teeth. This happens every night in the deep winter. It is the sign that the house has lost the battle for the air. The walls stop the wind, but they cannot hold the heat forever. The freezing line has moved inside. It has crossed the threshold. It is standing in your kitchen. Sometimes the freezing makes a sound, ping. It is a sharp, high sound. It happens when the ice expands. As water freezes, it gets bigger. It pushes against the sides of the wooden bucket. It stretches the wood. The oak groans under the pressure. The iron bands creak. If it gets too cold, the ice will win. It will split the bucket open. It will burst the wood apart. That is why you always leave a little space at the top of the bucket. You have to give the ice room to grow. You lie in bed and imagine the ice forming. It is a quiet, slow magic. It is turning the softest thing in the world into the hardest thing. This circle of ice is your clock. If you wake up and the water is still liquid, you know the night is young. If you wake up and there is a thin skin of ice, it is the middle of the night. If you wake up and the ice is thick enough to stand on, it is morning. Right now, the ice is thickening. It is sealing the water away. You snuggle deeper into the bed. You are glad you are not water. You are glad you have blood that moves and keeps you warm. You are glad for the person sleeping next to you, who is a radiator that never freezes. The thought of the cold, hard ice makes the bed feel even softer. You pull your knees up. You create a tiny pocket of hot air under the blanket. You are an island of heat in a sea of freezing air. The bucket stands there in the dark, silent and stiff. It waits for the morning. It waits for the fire to wake up and melt the prison. But for now, the ice is king of the room. The night rolls on, cold and white and still. You drift away again, leaving the water to its winter sleep. You are waiting for the first sign that the reign of the ice is ending. You are waiting for the grey light. You are floating in the warm darkness of the bed. You are not sure if you are awake or asleep. But then, your eyes open. Something has changed. 4 hours. The room has been a cave of total blackness. You could not see your own hand in front of your face. But now, the black is turning into grey. It is not a bright light. It is a weak, watery colour. It looks like dirty dishwater. It is the colour of iron. It is the dawn. You do not look at a clock. You do not look at a phone screen. You look up. You look towards the roof. In the middle of the dark, towering shape of the ceiling, there is a lighter patch. It is the smoke hole. It is the open chimney in the thatch, where the smoke escaped last night. Now, it is a window to the sky. Through that square hole, you can see the morning. It is not sunny. It is lightly thick with clouds or fog, but it is light enough to show you the inside of your own house again. You lie very still and watch the light grow. It is a slow process. It happens inch by inch. First, the light touches the smoke cloud. The layer of grey haze that hangs in the rafters starts to glow softly. It looks like a storm cloud caught inside a bottle. Then, the light finds the beams. You can see the heavy black timbers of the roof frame. They are coated in soot, so they do not shine. They just emerge from the shadows like the ribs of a giant whale. You can see the long strings of dusty cobwebs hanging from them. They sway gently in the cold air coming down from the hole. This light is cold. It feels different from the warm, yellow light of the fire. The firelight was friendly. It moved and danced. This grey morning light is still and flat. It reveals the truth of the room. It shows you the dust on the floor. It shows you the soot on the walls. It shows you the rough, messy reality of the hut. You look closely at the thatch itself. The roof is made of thick bundles of reeds and straw. It is packed tight to keep the rain out. But it is not a solid sheet like metal. There are millions of tiny gaps between the stalks of straw. As the sun gets stronger outside, tiny pinpricks of light start to shine through the roof. It looks like a starry sky, but the stars are grey. These little beams of light cut through the smoke. They show you the motes of dust dancing in the air. You realize that it is snowing outside. You can tell because the light from the smoke hole keeps flickering. Every few seconds, the grey square gets a little darker, then lighter again. That is the wind blowing the snow across the opening. Sometimes, a few snowflakes fall right through the hole. They drift down into the room. They are tiny white feathers. They survive the long fall through the warm air in the roof because the fire is banked and the heat is low. They land on the pile of grey ash in the hearth. They sit there for a second, bright white against the dark grey dust, before they melt into tiny wet spots. It is a strange feeling to see snow falling inside your house. It reminds you that your shelter is just a shell. It is permeable. The outside world is always trying to get in. You shift your head on the bolster. The wool of the pillow feels rough against your cheek. You look at the blanket covering your chest. There is a surprise there, right near your face. On the rough wool of the happing blanket, there is a patch of white. It looks like sugar. You touch it with your finger. It melts instantly. It is frost. It is not frost from the roof. It is frost from you. It is your own breath. All night long, as you breathed out warm, wet air, it hit the freezing cold wool of the blanket. The moisture froze right there, building up a tiny glacier on your bedspread. This tells you how cold the room has become. The fire has been sleeping 4 hours. The walls have lost their battle. The air in the room is now almost the same temperature as the air outside. The only heat left is the heat inside the bed. You feel a heavy reluctance to move. This is the dawn paralysis. Your body knows that the moment you throw back the covers, you will be attacked. The cold air is waiting like a pack of wolves. It will bite your skin. It will sting your toes. So you stay perfectly still. You try to hold the last few minutes of warmth. You pull your arms in tight. You curl your toes. You become a tight knot of heat. You listen to the family. They are still asleep, but the rhythm has changed. The deep, heavy snoring of the night is gone. Now, they are shifting. Someone coughs. Someone murmurs a quiet word in a dream. The huddle is starting to break up. The single giant creature is separating back into individual people. From the end of the room, you hear a sound, clatter. The cow is standing up. It is a clumsy, heavy sound. Her hooves slip a little on the floor before she finds her balance. She shakes her head. Her ears flap against her neck. Flap, flap. She lets out a low, impatient noise. Mum. She knows it is morning. She wants to be milked. She wants to go out, even if it is snowing. She is the alarm clock. You cannot hit the snooze button on a cow. You look back at the smoke hole. The grey is getting lighter. It is turning almost white. The wolf light is passing. The day is here. You start to make a plan in your head. You map out your first moves. Jump out of bed. Grab the boots. Run to the fire. Rake the ashes. You rehearse it in your mind. Speed is key. If you are fast, you won't freeze. You feel a sense of dread, but also a sense of duty. The night shift is over. You survived. The darkness did not get you. The cold did not freeze you solid. You are awake, and you are alive. The grey light creeps down the wall. It touches the wooden chest. It touches the handle of the bill hook that was mended last night. It touches the bucket with the ice lid. The room looks different in this light. Last night, in the firelight, it looked magical and cozy. The shadows hid the dirt, but in the grey dawn, it looks simple and poor. It looks like a shed made of mud, but to you, it is beautiful. It is the most beautiful thing in the world, because it worked. It stood up to the storm. You take one last deep breath of the warm air under the blanket. It smells of sleep and wool. It is a sweet smell. You will miss it. You tense your muscles. You prepare for the shock. You count to 3 in your head. 1. You grip the edge of the blanket. 2. You draw your knees up. 3. You do not move yet. You give yourself just one more second, just one more moment to watch the snowflakes drifting down from the hole in the roof. They are so peaceful. They are like quiet little messengers from the sky. But the cow moves again, louder this time. The spell is broken. The morning has officially begun. The grey light is filling the room, pushing the shadows into the corners. It is time to face the cold. You finally do it. You commit. You throw the heavy wool blanket back. Whoosh! The cold air rushes in instantly. It does not feel like air. It feels like water. It washes over your warm tunic, your leggings, and your face. It is a physical shock. Your skin tightens. The little hairs on your arms stand up straight. You let out a gasp that turns into a puff of white steam. You sit up on the edge of the bed. You put your feet on the dirt floor. The floor is punishing. It is hard-packed earth. And during the night, it has sucked up the cold from the ground below. It feels like standing on a block of ice. You instinctively curl your toes up, trying to touch the ground with as little skin as possible. You rock back on your heels. You do a little seated dance, lifting one foot and then the other. You try to move your body. It is not easy. You feel old. It does not matter if you are 20 or 50. In the first minute of a winter morning, everyone feels 80. Your back is stiff. Your neck is tight. When you turn your head, you hear a little click in your spine. It feels like your joints are rusty. It feels like someone needs to come with an oil can and grease your elbows and knees. This is because of the cold. While you slept, your body did something clever. It pulled the blood away from your arms and legs. It pulled the heat into your center to keep your heart and your stomach warm. Your hands and feet were left to fend for themselves. The oil inside your joints has turned thick and sticky, like honey in the fridge. You look at your hands. They are pale, almost white. They look clumsy. You try to make a fist. Your fingers move slowly. They feel thick and swollen, like sausages. You cannot feel the tips of your fingers very well. They are numb. You rub your hands together hard. Swish, swish. You are trying to create friction. You blow into your cupped hands. The hot breath warms your skin for a second, but the cold bites back immediately. You have to get moving. Motion is the only cure. You have to force the blood back into the extremities. You stand up. Your knees creak. You stretch your arms up towards the smoke-stained roof. You groan a little. It is a groan of effort, but also a groan of waking up. Around you, the others are doing the same. You hear the rustle of straw. You hear the thump of feet hitting the floor. You hear the chattering of teeth. No one is talking yet. It is too cold to talk. Words waste heat. Everyone is just focused on the battle against the stiffness. You walk towards the fire. You walk like a wooden puppet, your legs straight and awkward. You reach the hearth. You grab your boots. They have been sitting on the floor all night. They are made of leather. Yesterday, the leather was wet from the snow. During the night, that wet leather froze. Now, your boots are not soft shoes. They are hard wooden boxes. You pick one up. It is rock solid. You cannot just slip your foot in. The leather will not bend. You have to fight it. You hit the boot against the wooden post. Thwack, thwack. You are trying to break the stiffness. You use your thumbs to massage the leather, pressing hard to warm it up. It takes a minute of hard work. Finally, the leather gives a little. It becomes just soft enough. You push your foot inside. It is a struggle. You wiggle your heel. You pull on the strap. Ooh, with a final shove, your foot slides in. The leather is freezing cold against your woolen hose. It feels like putting your foot into a bucket of snow, but you know that in 10 minutes, your body heat will warm the leather up. The boot will soften. It will mold to your foot again. You get the other boot on. Now you are shod. You stamp your feet on the ground. Stamp, stamp. This sends a shock up your legs. It wakes up the muscles. It tells the blood, go down there. I need you. Now comes the pain. As you start to move, the blood rushes back into your cold fingers and toes. This is the thaw. It starts as a tingle. It feels like pins and needles. Then, it starts to burn. It is a hot, itching ache. It makes you want to shake your hands. It makes you want to jump up and down. It hurts, but it is a good hurt. It means you are not frostbitten. It means the circulation is returning. You grit your teeth and rub your fingers. You welcome the pain because it means life. You look at the bucket of water. The ice lid is thick. It is opaque and white. You pick up the heavy iron ladle. You give the ice a sharp hit. Crack, the ice shatters. Dark water wells up through the cracks. You dip the ladle in and take a sip. The water is so cold it makes your teeth ache. It shocks your stomach. It wakes you up faster than any coffee ever could. You splash a little water on your face. You scrub your cheeks with your rough hands. Your skin turns pink and raw. You are scrubbing away the sleep. You are scrubbing away the smoke of the night. You turn to the fire. It is time to wake the house up. You kneel down on the cold stones. You take the iron poker and dig into the mound of grey ash you made last night. You gently pull the ash apart. Deep inside, like a buried treasure, is the red glow. The peat block has burned down, but the heart is still hot. You smile. It survived. You place a handful of dry birch bark on the red coals. You lean down close. You puff out your cheeks and blow. Hoo-voo. The ash flies up into your face, making you blink. The red coals glow brighter. They turn orange, then yellow. Thwoomp, the birch bark catches. A bright, happy flame leaps up. It is the first color you have seen all day. It is a beautiful, dancing yellow. You add some small sticks. The fire crackles. It sounds like applause. The heat hits your face immediately. It feels wonderful. It melts the stiffness in your neck. You hold your stiff, cold hands out to the flames. You turn them over and over. You watch the color change. The pale white turns to red. The veins stand out again. Your fingers start to feel like fingers again, instead of frozen claws. You look around the room. The firelight is chasing away the grey dawn. The mood changes instantly. The family gathers around the hearth. They are all rubbing their arms and stamping their boots. They look like a huddle of survivors. The stiffness is leaving. The oil is flowing in the joints again. The Tin Man feeling is fading. You are ready to move. You are ready to work. You stand up tall. Your back is straight now. Your shoulders are loose. You pick up the bill hook with the new handle. It feels good in your warm hand. There is one last barrier to cross. The final seal. You look at the door. All night, it has been the shield. It has held back the storm. But now, you have to open it. You have to go out there. You have to go into the white world to feed the animals, to clear the path, to start the day. You walk towards it. You can see the light shining through the cracks around the frame. It is bright white. You put your hand on the latch. The iron is freezing. You take a deep breath. You are warm on the inside now. You have your fire. You have your breakfast in your belly. You have your boots on your feet. You are ready to step out of the capsule and into the world. The night shift is truly over. The day shift is beginning. You lift the latch. You grip the iron latch. The metal is cold, but your hand is warm. You push down with your thumb. Clack, the latch lifts. You put your shoulder against the wood. You push. At first, the door does not want to move. It feels heavy. There is something pressing against it from the other side. It is the snow. It has piled up against the bottom of the door during the night. You push harder. Crunch. The door swings open. You do not step out immediately. You have to stop. You have to blink. The light is blinding. After 12 hours of darkness and dim firelight, the world outside is shockingly bright. The sun has not fully risen yet, but the light is reflecting off the snow. The whole world is white. It glows. It hurts your eyes. You have to squint, shielding your face with your hand until you get used to it. You look down. A drift of snow has tumbled into the doorway, spilling onto the dirt floor. It looks like a pile of spilled salt. You prepare your feet. You do not want to get your leather boots wet straight away. Wet leather stretches and gets cold. So, you slip your feet into your pattens. These are simple wooden sawless. They look like wooden sandals with a leather strap. You wear them over your boots. They lift you up an inch or two off the ground. They are like little platforms. They keep your precious boots out of the mud and the slush. They make you taller. You step out. Clop. The wood hits the frozen ground. The air hits you. It is cleaner than anything you have ever smelled. Inside, the air was thick with smoke, sweat, animals, and food. Outside, the air has no smell at all. It is just cold and pure. It rushes into your lungs. It wakes up every cell in your body. You stand in your taft. This is the name for your little plot of land. It is the square of earth where your house stands. It is your kingdom. Behind the house, you can see the croft, the small field where you grow your beans in the summer. Right now, it is just a flat, white sheet. You look around the village. You are not the only one awake. From the roof of the house next door, a thin trail of blue smoke is rising straight up into the still air. Your neighbor has woken his fire too. Further down the track, you see another column of smoke, and another. It is a signal. It means the village has survived. The night did not take anyone. The fires are lit. The hearts are beating. You hear a sound in the distance. Thwack, thwack. Someone is chopping ice on the river to get water. It is a sharp, clear sound that carries 4 miles in the cold air. A dog barks. It is a happy, excited bark. A black shape bounds through the snow, chasing a bird. You take a few steps away from the house. The snow crunches loudly under your wooden pattens. It is a satisfying sound. Crunch, crunch. You look back at your home. From the outside, it looks small. It is just a low mound of brown mud and grey straw, topped with a layer of white snow. It looks like a hillock in the landscape. It does not look impressive, but you know what is inside. You know the warmth of the walls. You know the strength of the timbers. You know the comfort of the straw bed. It is the machine that kept you alive. You look up at the sky. The clouds are breaking. A patch of pale blue appears, and then the sun crests the horizon. It is a pale, winter sun. It is not hot, but it is golden. The light hits the snow and makes it sparkle like diamond dust. It hits your face. You close your eyes and turn your face towards it. You can feel the tiniest bit of warmth on your cheeks. It is the return of the king. The long, dark shift is over. The monsters of the night have gone back to the mountains. The ice on the bucket will melt. You feel a deep, quiet pride. You did it. You kept the fire. You patched the wall. You told the story. You guarded the sleep. You are ready for the day. There is wood to chop. There is a cow to milk. There is a path to shovel. But that is work for the muscles. The work of the night, the work of the spirit is done. You take a deep breath of the freezing, bright air. You let it out in a long cloud of steam. You smile. You are safe. You are warm. You are here. The wind down now. Let the image of the snow-covered village fade. Let the bright white light soften. Let the crunch of the boots and the smell of the wood smoke drift away. You do not need to chop the wood. You do not need to milk the cow. You do not need to worry about the fire going out. That was their work, not yours. You are back in your own time. You are back in your own bed. The air around you is warm and still. The walls of your room are solid. The roof is strong. You are perfectly safe. Feel the heavy relaxation spreading through your body. Your legs are heavy. Your arms are heavy. Your eyes are closed. The tension of the cold winter night has melted away, leaving only a deep, cozy warmth. You have walked through the past, and you have returned. You have seen how they survived, and you can feel a sense of gratitude for the comfort you have now. The history is sleeping. The village is quiet in your memory. Everything is exactly as it should be. You can let go. You can drift. You can rest. The sun is rising. The gates are opening. The watch is ended.